And now, because of the nature of the beast, the nature of YouTube, once this goes live, it says 5 seconds, but there's no video here. Oh, there it goes. There we go. Okay, so that's populated over to YouTube. People who get such notifications probably will. And then we go to my Social Streamblade thing, manager, bring that over here and do the very confusing operation of auto find and activate. And then I need to choose the right one. So if I unview this one down here. Okay, so that was the vibrant and nuanced chat with many, many different topics in it from last stream. It was literally 2 messages, and I can remove this one. There we go. Okay, keep it clean. There we go. The code in there is not public, I don't think, so I don't know. And if you did hack that code, you could just simply view my chat. I don't think you can moderate it with that code. Okay, that's it. See you guys next time. Now, how's it going, Poopsie Doodle? The gaming, what was that? The gaming V2 model for when Bother eventually plays Half-Life on stream with the wheel. That would be unique. That would be very fascinating to program. Finding the right presets is going to be a whole thing in and of itself, but today we're doing hardware. I think what I'm going to do is the 4-pin header that they use for LEDs. I think I'm going to put that in here so that we can have this be environmentally sealed, but if I feel like swapping out the LEDs, I can do that. And then we'll shrink wrap this, we'll package it all up, and just make sure everything can kind of fit in there. But we need to figure out like a circuit board for this thing where I can put all the stuff and somehow place that button. What is that? Part of lunch. Place the button over where it's supposed to go, because it seems like the button is offset a little bit from the header, but it is kind of over top of the Seed Zhao, the Seed Studio microcontroller. So that's going to be a challenge. We need to get the button to be where the button was. But I did get the functionality of the button done. Long press, let go. Now that's a false one. It comes back on. I don't know why it does that. I don't know how to disable that either. Long press, let go. That should be, okay. Long press, let go. That should be off. Okay, so there it turned off and it went into a deep sleep. I can't really see the microamps that it's taking right now, but if it's 0.001 or if it's 0.009, that still represents a long time that it can sleep before it fully discharges. So that's in deep sleep, and I have it turning off all of these LEDs with a MOSFET. The MOSFET I chose, for some weird reason, I think it's because it's a CMOS MOSFET. It's working at CMOS logic levels, which means when I give it 3.3 volts, that's triggering it only a little or something, because what it's letting flow through is a maximum of 300 milliamps. Now, a maximum of 300 milliamps means that we've got about an hour, like a little less than an hour of runtime from our 250 milliamp battery. Our battery's not going to be able to achieve 250 milliamps. That's milliamp hours. It's not going to be able to achieve 250 milliamp hours. That is just a, best case scenario that they put on the label to sell the battery. But we will get about, a little less than an hour runtime with this many LEDs. So this is why I want to put a connector on the hardware, because it's possible that I need to swap out to these, which will take way, way less current. They're less dense. They don't look as good, but they take way less current from the machine. So 140 milliamps is, this is the other part of it. It's 140 milliamps just to run the microcontroller. It's a little bit power hungry because it's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on it. I don't know if I can turn that off. I don't think I can. So it might be that I need to redesign this to be a complete square and then find a bigger battery. Wish I could sleep for a long time before I discharge. Waking up to pee is no fun. Last night I had a particularly egregious insulin pump change out. Very, very annoying. Woke up in like 4 o'clock in the morning, right? 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up to my pump just going beep and not letting up. Just that constant tone. And it took me a little while. I took the phone, brought it into my hand. I opened Reddit. I was like, oh, what am I doing? What's going on? I didn't know who I was, where I was, what was going on. There was just this constant beep going on in the background. So I had to deactivate the pump with the phone, tear it off with my arm, go all the way downstairs to the shop here where I keep all of my stuff, grab a pump, re-up it, do the thing, get it all done, put the new pump on, have it stab me in the arm, go back upstairs, fall back asleep. To save power, just change the software to keep every other LED off or reduce brightness. That would be easier than swapping out the LED strips. I don't think you understand. We're talking about 92 LEDs versus like 12. 92 LEDs. Like, that is a significant thing. But then again, 140 milliamps in order to power the device. And these were running at a maximum of 300 milliamps, and they're still very bright. So the playlist that I choose is going to be fairly significant. Just having it turn on solid is not going to be the case. We need to have stuff that will vary the LEDs quite a bit. So things like, hold on, let's find one. We need to play with palettes and we need to play with playlists. So I'll need to go through the list and make my own playlist with some settings in it that I can alter. Stuff like this. This is perfect for this, because then we can have a few bright LEDs. And this is actually only drawing 170 milliamps right now. So this one would get us to 4 hours. 4 hours is just a goal. It's just a number. You know, Willow's walks are not that long. They're like a maximum of an hour. I don't think they would even be an hour. How did this move? I must have clicked it. So yeah, turning off Wi-Fi would be a pretty significant thing, but I don't know if I can do that. It seems pretty, oh, look at this. Force 8211, I guess we can't do that. Disable Wi-Fi sleep, we don't want that. Disabling Wi-Fi sleep increases power consumption. TX power, 8.5. May render device unreachable. ESP Now, wireless. Enable ESP Now. Listen for events over ESP Now. I don't know what ESP Now is. ESP Now, what is that? Wireless communication protocol defined by Espressif. Why did Ask Gemini come up? Get out of here. Oh, because this is still Chrome. I need to get off of Chrome. I installed Wi-Fi and everything. This sounds like Tribe. I think it is. Smart home, different wireless. So this is trying to like take on Zigbee, I guess. Wi-Fi remote controller based on ESP Now enables the instant control of ESP32 powered smart devices such as toy cars, toy planes, robots, etc. The control can achieve millisecond level delay and communication over distances that are much longer than Bluetooth. Huh. If they want to sponsor me and send me a bunch of hardware, we could do the neighborhood drive around using ESP. ESP Now is a pretty cool wireless protocol. Interesting. Keep disabled if not using a remote ESP Now sync. So I'm not really using that. It doesn't look like there's any like power saving. I don't know what they expected people to be doing with wLED. I guess mostly installations. And it seems like from looking at all the sensor protocol stuff, I was reading up about that yesterday. They seem to want you to compile all of this stuff in Arduino, actually, because then you can do all kinds of stuff with your sensors. You can use functions to call the numbers from your sensors. You can scale them and get them to fit into things that will manipulate, stuff on the playlist. I don't know if you can do that using this API stuff in here, using the API command. I don't have any examples of that, but it seems like for some of the API command, I actually, well, no, but that was for a different thing. Very confusing. The lack of examples of people using sensors in the API command window, and that's kind of held me up. Notice the new Chrome update on a relative's device. It wants to auto run in the background at boot and have mic access to listen. Oh, Jesus Christ! To listen for Hey Google or Gemini. Fuck that. Hell nah. Yeah, I don't know why they don't understand that like shoving AI into every single crevice of the internet is not what we want. Nobody wants that, and nobody wants your program to monitor us, and nobody wants constant everything, but they do. They want it, and so I guess we want it, so we get it. Here you go, Mike. Yeah. The AI seems to be hearing a lot of farting noises. We don't know what to do. Oh, the constant monitoring is something that, man, can we like legislate against that somehow, please? Can we actually get lawmakers to like do some, maybe like the European lawmakers could do some shit about that? Because, man, I'm tired of corporate being in my pants all the time. I prefer compiling in Platform IO over Arduino IDE. I like the basicness of Arduino IDE. I don't mind Platform IO. I've used it once. But I like my notepad programming, and I like my very, very simple interface. Adding tabs to the Arduino IDE was scandalous, but it's helpful. But it's like I will accept one feature like that every 3 years in Arduino IDE, because I want my Arduino IDE to be very, very basic and simple. They're lobbying the politicians. Yeah, we've somehow accepted that. We didn't really accept shit. We just are not in control of that. Let me get my water. So we're doing the stuff I enjoy today, which is the hardware stuff. We're building things. We're going to make this into a cromulent dog collar. Now, I'm not sure about the accelerometer. If I learn sensors more, I may be tempted to go back inside this device and install the accelerometer, because for shits and giggles, it would be very funny if when Willow's running around, the patterns were synced up with her somehow. Got to make sure we can advertise the exact stuff you already buy. You know, never seen an ad for them ever, and then I talk about like a BMW Mini, like, yeah, it would be cool to have a BMW Mini. I think they're good cars. That would be a fat guy in a tiny car, but that would be hilarious in and of itself, and maybe I wouldn't get the jokes. Maybe people would laugh about it behind my back, but it would bring enjoyment to life, and it would fulfill everyone, and that would be fine. And then the Alexa with a screen on it, I didn't activate it, suddenly started giving me ads for such things. I have to snooze that update. Suddenly gave me ads, and I had never talked about them before, but there is a phenomenon, a psychological phenomenon. You buy a new car, and you get in this car, and you drive around, and suddenly you're seeing this car everywhere. This happened with me with a Porsche 356. It's a Porsche 356. You don't see them around until I drove to my brother's place in Maryland, and just as I'm pulling past his local park, a Porsche 356 is pulling out of the drive there. Never seen one in the wild before until then. And then I noticed that there's one production company in California where the end card that they have has whoever, you know, whatever executive is driving one of those into the lot. And I'm like, wait a sec. So weird stuff. Arduino IDE is no longer basic. Just wait till you see what Qualcomm did to it. Did they already do stuff to the Arduino IDE? Jesus Christ. I hate it. I like using my old Arduino IDE. I may have to go IDE hunting if I'm going to further do Arduino stuff on the air. The collar lighting up with her barks, and the decay limiting based on how loud she is. Yeah, we can set up all that stuff. I just don't know how to get the sensor data into wLED. Now, the audio sensor already has a bunch of presets, so you can see what the effect of like the microphone is on things. But to do it in custom stuff, I don't know how that works. Yeah, like there's a DJ light. Because it's doing this by grabbing it within the Arduino, not within the JSON command. So you can set up a bunch of the parameters of these presets using the JSON commands, and if you want to make your own LED bank, you have to drop down into Arduino code and code it. And I don't think you can access to any of the stuff in here. So if I were to use the sensor data, I would have to use it on a programming level, not on an API level. That's what I'm wondering about. And I'm not able to find a lot of information about that. They have information about sensor data, and then all of these different APIs, if you, the user mods, if you look at the user mods themselves, they talk about API usage, but when they talk about API usage, they just say, this has functions you can use in the code, not, this is how you would get a number out of the API. They don't do that. It's very, very confusing, and maybe I think the people who are doing user mods, who did them many, many years ago, I'm guessing, didn't really consider us using them in here without having to open up the Arduino IDE. So I probably have to open up the Arduino IDE, put all the stuff that I want into it, all the user mods into it, and then I can program the preset that like a couple custom presets that use the sensors. Very annoying. Already getting Arduino ads for being a personal computer running a variation of Ubuntu Linux. What the fuck? Oh no. Happened to me with Renault Clio, but it's already a very common car. Yeah, and you know, to be honest, BMW Mini, like that's a common advertisement, but to have it come up on the Amazon lady is a little weird. It's a little weird. Yeah, it would be nice if we got Renault. I'm considering if I want to see like an affordable Alfa Romeo or something. Just something truly weird to drive. But I got to fix up my station wagon, and then obviously you guys have heard me bitch about this like endlessly, is the project car that I am meant to build. It's the one that I absolutely have to build someday when I have enough space, just because I love the 944. I love the look of it, and it's a bastard child of automotive engineering. It is a very capable car. It has a bastard engine, and Porsche people don't like it because it's front engine, rear-wheel drive. I love it. I love it for all those reasons. And it's kind of a hatchback, and I love that. It's sort of the equivalent to my brother's P1800 ES that he has. It's a shooting brakes sport wagon from Volvo. Marketing website here. Look at all these cars you can't get. I guess there's a whole... Importing a new car is quite a thing. You just can't really do it. I don't know about leaving the blue tack out in the open, but I don't know if I can put it in the felt bottom trays. If I had like a block of wood I could put it on, I guess maybe I could do that. Or just stick it to the corner. It's gonna get nasty in here. Yeah, maybe this is the best way to keep it. Just have it blue tacked in the corner there, and then it stays out of the dust. If it stays there. I guess it's blue tack. It's gonna stay there. Arduino IDE is still a standalone tool for now, but it's getting rolled into the Arduino App Lab. Really? I guess you can always download an old version, and I guess that's where I'm going to be, because that is... Qualcomm, why do you do this? Why would you do this to our beautiful Arduino? Things are so simple, and I guess it's the natural progression of things, but like, you know? It's just, it's just sigh. What the hell is... I've not listened to this mix before, so this is my definition of chill mix from Deckard, and it's on SoundCloud. Here it is right here. Let's just give credit where credit's due. Because I am very technically not supposed to be using this music, but Twitch has put in their copyright protection system, which is I can put that music on a channel that doesn't go to YouTube and it doesn't go to VODs. So the IDE keeps getting more complicated. I tried to run, there was an update to the IDE like 3 years ago, and I tried to run it, and it didn't even run on my computer. Like it just crashed. So I've been using a very old version of the Arduino IDE since then. It does everything I need to do, and you guys know I am not a basic user of the Arduino IDE. I am a very advanced user. I have had my fingers in the brain of the back end of that IDE. It's basically AVR dude with a whole bunch of nice stuff built up on top of it using originally processing. But anyway, the thing is, like, in the background, there's all that AVR dude stuff that you can get into and change parameters on and do some very advanced stuff, like buy the wrong chip and put it into your Arduino. Like, that works. I'm worried about this Qualcomm stuff because I don't know anything about anything. I don't know Qualcomm's reputation, but they seem to be building up complexity on top of the IDE that was already built in that I didn't like. So I don't know. Sucked when there were two versions of the Arduino IDE. Like, which one do I use? Yeah, and one of them was like a little bit too over the top. I have a feeling Qualcomm's going to build in like AI code completion and shit like that, like stuff I just don't want. I just don't want. I like coding my code the way I code my code because it's not bloated and I am not just trusting that something operates properly. Because sometimes hardware's on the line when you do microcontrollers. Like you can brick a device if you put the wrong stuff in there. And this wLED stuff, you can brick the device. You don't fully brick it. You can actually reflash it. But when you flash this, if you're using the low power user mod and you don't have a button connected properly and configured, if you power this down, it's done. It will not power back up because it's not being given a signal to come back alive. So I bricked one of these. I had to press down the button and restart it and then reflash the entire bit of software onto it. We will, of course, be flashing one of these Arduinos today because we are putting all of the hardware together. I've decided to leave the code stuff behind. I did a lot of reading on Monday. It didn't feel like I was getting anything done. I was like ready to have a panic attack because I was literally just doing reading homework, trying to figure out how this stuff operates under battery and with sensors and all that stuff. And there's not a lot of information out there, and I was sort of picking apart different pages. I've bricked many Arduinos. Yeah, I'm all bricked up. What does that mean? I don't vibe code. I use AI to find links to code repositories. That's not a bad idea. I don't use AI to code. I simply write software and put it in a microcontroller. And if it doesn't work, it dies. I gotta watch that scene so I know all the inflection of that meme. Perplexity AI was great as a search tool until they launched a browser. Billions, millions and millions of dollars into data centers, and they've made a tool that it's not actually thinking, it's not actually researching, it is just regurgitating a pattern that it thinks statistically gets it correct, gives it a correct feedback. That's it, that's all it does. And it's not even that it gives it a correct feedback, it's just that the data statistically points in a direction. And then it puts words together that it knows statistically creates sentences. Isn't that what we all do? Best guess? Well, we can also say, I don't know. We can say that. The mathematically most efficient gaslighting. That's actually, okay, it's not efficient, no, but it is. The statistics are most favorable, I guess. It's how can we dump water? I don't understand what they mean by the AI using water. Because wouldn't you have like a closed loop system? You don't have like a plume of steam coming off of your data center, right? But they treat the water with stuff that makes it, does it make it unviable? Do they have to have like wastewater barrels coming out of the other side of it? I don't think that's the case. I think, you cool your water and then you put it back in circulation. Why do they say it's using up water? And these counties have only a certain amount of water, and for some reason it's going into that data center and using it up. It's perplexing to me. Literally all that you would need is just power going into the building. Oh, this song. This was in all of the DJ nights over there in the 2000s. All the radio station DJ nights would play this song. And it was used in like ads and stuff. Yeah, this one. Maybe it's just too hot to release into a river and it kills the fish. I don't think it, but they're talking about AIs using up water, like using the water that the county can provide. And other people don't get water as a result. I don't understand that. It is killing the ecosystems, but they still just dump it back in. So it's using fresh water constantly? That seems like, why wouldn't you just get some refrigeration equipment? I guess that's more power that you have to use, and if you could just put a hose on it. That doesn't seem right to me. That just doesn't seem right to me. Because they still have massive cooling arrays in these things. AI is confident, but quick to say, sorry, you're right. That code will brick your device. Let's fix it and try another one. Yeah, it'll never say, I don't know. It'll simply come up with something, and then when you correct it, it says, oh yes, of course you're correct. Lots of data centers use counterflow cooling towers that spray water into air and they lose a lot of evaporation. That's what I suspected it would be, like a nuclear power plant situation. Big spray heads in an enclosure with fans on the roof. I see, I see. What up, Madam You? Oh, YouTube works, that's good. Hub, bub, 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 bub. Yeah, the AI, horrible AI future, and I can't believe they would like wrap that into Arduino stuff. It's just not, I mean, it's like, you can say Arduino's dead, but there's a lot of devices that use Arduino that you can still buy and use the old IDE if you really want to, and you don't have to go with the Qualcomm stuff, and maybe Qualcomm will be like, oh my god, what, everybody hates this, let's go back to the old thing. Maybe, maybe not. It just doesn't seem very Arduino-y to be building in like, you know, persistent vision AI and having a big complicated Qualcomm IDE, and it's not what it's supposed to be. Back in the day, if you wanted to program like a Qualcomm device, you would have like their own flashing program, and it was a big complicated program, and you would have to register as a developer and buy a $300 flashing device in order to hook up to the thing you wanted to flash, and all this stuff was all packed away behind industry. And then Arduino came along and said, well, Arduino wasn't the first one to do it. It was like Basic Stamp, and there was a couple others that were easy to use. What Arduino did is Arduino came in and said, hey, we have this program that works on Linux, it works on Mac, it works on Windows. You open the thing, you tell it what device you have, and you put code onto a physical thing, and now you're physical computing with code. You don't have to worry about all the signal flags and the clock speeds and stuff like that. We've just got that in the background. And so people who weren't industry people, who didn't have years of programming training, who didn't have a data sheet in front of them, didn't need a data sheet in front of them, they said, I want to blink the LEDs and put it inside of this Snoopy doll. And Snoopy doll, you fucking boomer. I want to put these LEDs inside of my Roomba. And so they look at it and they go, okay, I have an artistic vision that I want to do. I need to learn a little bit about code. And Arduino went, okay, simple enough. Here's the setup, here's the loop. You got to tell us what pins you're using, and then your loop can just simply iterate again and again and again and do stuff. Now, okay, I wanted to do this stuff, so I got to learn a little bit of C context, syntax, and put that in there. I found something that does something very similar, and it's got Arduino code in its blog, because by nature, the whole thing, it's all about sharing, and so there's this huge community that built up around Arduino. And artists and engineers alike were doing amazing things. I found it to be an incredibly good tool for rapid prototyping and hacking. If I needed to figure out what the nature of a signal was coming out of a product that didn't want to share, I could use the Arduino to scan that signal and bring it into the computer in a way that I could manipulate, right? We did that. We did that with the VKB pedals, the helicopter style pedals. Then we sort of hacked their protocol and figured out that they were actually taking two signals and XORing them together. That was one of the things, that's one of the unsung things that I did that nobody recognizes, but people were absolutely flabbergasted who understood what I was doing on stream. That was before I partnered. I was looking at this data packet that kept coming out of the VKB pedals. And looking at it, as you move the pedals, nothing correlated. There was no correlation at all. And I'm like, this is a signal. This has to be something. And so I decided to XOR them together, and then it made data. We actually had a cromulent, like, repetitious signal. It was pretty cool. So anyway, Arduino makes all that possible without me having to become a complete expert in the Atmega 328. I don't care what hardware I'm running it off of as long as it runs, right? Are you saying normal people didn't want to have a 400-page AVR datasheet and instruction set documents printed out, yeah, and write assembly by hand and calculate your clock speeds and all that stuff? He made data. Yes. I don't know. It was shocking to me I'm looking at like a page of ones and zeros, and I'm just like, none of this makes any sense. I'm like, wait, what if I try this? And that was the solution. It was awesome. I felt likened unto a god. Already getting ads for that? Regular Arduino chip and Qualcomm chip to run an Ubuntu mobile distro that has direct access to upload code into the Arduino site. What the fuck? I don't even know what any of those words are. It was before I discovered this channel. I missed too much. It was a long time. We were working on the dual joystick setup, and I haven't worked on that in a long time. That was before everything looked professional here. Things were a little bit more Bush League. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Roomba came out in 2002, more like 20 years ago. Roomba's also boomer. Damn it. I can't get away from the accusations. The allegations are on my back, and I can't get them off. I want to build a small-scale reactor draft-style cooling tower as a humidifier, just out of curiosity, to see how well it can humidify the air. I have one of those ultrasonic humidifiers, and I put it in a place in the room where the plume of smoke doesn't contact anything, because those ultrasonic humidifiers, they make little tiny particles of water. They're pretty bad to breathe in, but the water contacting the air, I guess, is enough to humidify it, right? Our house uses a humidifier that has this grid of, like, I guess it must not be aluminum, but it looks like an air filter that it dribbles water down, and it just runs a fan through that. Yeah, the humidifier I have, I maybe should try to put a humidity sensor in, and then I could have it automatically turn on. I think I have it set up so that I can use the Stream Deck to turn it on. That's for like the middle of winter when it gets really, really dry in Pennsylvania because of the low temperature, moisture goes into it better, I guess. But I held out for a long time, but I finally got Arduino when I realized you could import libraries, and have something functional in minutes versus doing a 100% of everything. Yeah, you don't have to hump code in order to run like signals to devices, and the more complicated devices, the ADCs and stuff like that, you can just run a library. And so that's how my first Arduino project used an accelerometer to get gravity and figure out what direction gravity was pointing on the breadboard and light up the LED that represented the opposite direction of gravity. I had that running in an hour. Like, I was shocked. I was sitting there at my table, like my coffee table, back in my old apartment, and I was just, and it just got it to work. So that's the power of Arduino. It's a really interesting and wonderful tool. I guess it'll still exist somewhat in that realm. I guess it'll still exist. It's just the complexity of Arduino is kind of ballooned, and Qualcomm buying it, I think, is the absolute worst that could happen to Arduino, since Qualcomm does not have any interest in the hobbyists. They want to expand their market. I'm sure that's why they're buying Arduino, but they seem to be getting the wrong signal. They said, hey, if we buy Arduino, we can put Arduino in our stuff, and then we can have all of these hobbyists sign up for our website and register as developers and buy our $300 programmer so that they can program more complicated things, and we can use all of our wonderful and powerful chips in the Arduino so that everybody has to use Qualcomm. It's like the wrong lesson. They're taking the wrong lesson from this all. It's supposed to be the simplicity of enabling the people who don't know, like, industry level knowledge. They don't have a data sheet this thick in front of them in order to use all of these cool features. I mean, those are cool features, you know, persistent machine learning and Linux and blah, 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 blah. But they seem to be like, why don't we make the Arduino into a Raspberry Pi? And that's like, it disturbs me. It's like all the stuff still exists, but it's like, what are the kids going to learn? What are the kids going to learn on? I guess they're learning more complicated tools, and that's the march of time. But all this stuff kind of boils down to learning loops and learning basic programming, and it's kind of a fundamental stepping stone into a more complex world. Instead of starting the kids off with something more complex, you step on the stepping stone, and the Arduino keeps that sort of low-level stuff pretty interesting. Need to invest in a bunch of Arduino Pro Micros with the Atmega 32U4 chip before they become rare. Yeah, they're not very rare. I mean, the 32U4 is pretty widely used, so you probably got half a century. Because I can still find logic gates and stuff, you know? I guess, like, in the sense, some of the audio chips from 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, from the late 90s, the audio chips that some people were able to actually make for, like, modular synthesizer stuff, those went out of circulation. You could have at one point spent like $100 on one of these chips, because they just weren't made anymore, because it was just one guy making them and he died. So they were no longer made. They were totally rare. But then people got the licensing from the widow of this person and were able to make the chips again. So I don't know what happens in industry when they decide to stop making a chip. Oh my God, that's so scary. This sucks. Technology sucks. Honeywell evaporative humidifier, but I can't keep up particularly well. Yeah, his house is about 20% humidity year round. They will tell AI what they want the chip to do. I know. Yeah, but then what about when the AI puts in a bad signal flag and it bricks the chip, and you'll never know that. You'll never know. One of the setup fuse bits is wrong, and so it thinks that it's a 5 volt or it's a 3 volt chip, or it has to put out 5 volts and it blows something up. Like, you know, it's like, I don't know, man. Having AI Arduino is, I feel like they've missed the point. Because Qualcomm was doing great as like an industry company, and now they've bought our DIY out. I don't like that. I don't like that they were able to purchase our DIY, but there will always be competitors, I suppose. It's just Arduino was the de facto standard. And so you could look around and people said, well, it will run an Arduino, you might have to change some things. If they worked outside of that standard, there's so many different microcontrollers these days that you could very easily be working in MicroPython or some other language. And maybe that's the direction that some of this stuff is going to go. Maybe we'll all be coding in a different language because Qualcomm doesn't understand that having that sort of blanket functionality is it's a doorway to more complex and other systems that function differently, right? Yeah, if they still make a version of the Uno, but don't they have that bastardized version of the Uno with like AI and LEDs all over it? I hope they, you know, they're smarter than us, right? The Qualcomm is easily smarter than us. They have rooms full of people that are figuring this stuff out. Hopefully they see the utility in sort of the blanket functionality of having the Arduino be sort of the de facto standard, because I can literally say, hey, I want to make a propeller that shoots beef, and I can look that up online and I can find either a beef shooter and a propeller project, or maybe both, and see how they did it and see what the code looks like and see that it's possible, right? That was the cool part about Arduino, is I want two things to happen and I can find two discrete projects using the microcontroller platform that do that already. And so I just have to mix them together. That's a great place to start off. Yeah, and there's the clone devices too are so ubiquitous that I guess Arduino's not going anywhere in the way that it exists right now. But again, like, nobody's using the BASIC stamp anymore. What happened to the BASIC stamp? People aren't coding in BASIC anymore, right? I don't know. What the? A beef shooting propeller. That was my idea. That's how I feel about most of the ideas that I come up with, is that I'm like, man, that's a really cool idea. And then somebody's come up with it and they're already selling it. Like, damn it. Dude, you beefed. Beefed it. All right, get these out of here. This is the more dense LEDs, and apparently they make them more dense by pushing all the circuit stuff to the edge. So this doesn't fit in our hidey hole here. This is one of those songs that goes dun 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 dun. Yeah, see, we've got a stitch that runs on the inside of this that is stitched to the bottom piece. Instead of it being the entirety of this, I've got just this. The Arduino Q is an Uno on one side and a Dragon Wing SoC on the other. What? With a bridge chip to link the microcontroller with the microcomputer. What the fuck am I supposed to do with that? This is take over the fucking, what am I making, like guided missiles with that? What? Why do I need a whole computer? Help computer. I don't know. Can this fit? I need to cut a length of this in order to fit it, or cut this off. This would be the option for slightly more density with the big LEDs. Does the LED tape fit? What do you think I'm looking at right now, man? What do you think's going on? You think? What did you think? What you? What? Should I just cut one LED off of this? Then it might be a weird number. Oh, these are numbered. What the? Look at that. 64, 63, 62, 61, 60. That's crazy. That's kind of cool. Except when you cut it. Oh, you got done dirty by the delay. Happens a lot. I'll get the music out of here and start in just a minute. I just want to see if this fits. This is kind of stream relevant, but kind of not. I don't think it'll fit. Oh yes, the part of the song that sounds like it's trying to send a fax. Yeah, super dense tape. I was looking at it. I thought I could fit an 8mm piece of tape in here, but I don't know if I can. This is, I think, 8mm. The new Ultra Arduino chip is powering the whole Ukrainian military right now. I show some respect. Seriously, it's like, what are these levels of computing that we are baking into our Arduinos? It's mad. It's a madhouse. Fucking Tron computing levels. That movie's super bombed, right? I mean, it has every single time. See, I mean, I could have one of these connectors sitting out of the enclosure. I don't think I have that much space, actually. Probably because of the Lido effect. I can't believe that guy is a cult. He's a whole goddamn cult. Ugh, it's got a giant piece of solder at the bottom of it. All right, that's not really going to affect it fitting in. It might grab the fabric a little weird, and I might have to clean it up later, but I'll just try. I just want to see if this huge piece can actually fit in there. Oh, that's a negative Ghost Rider. That's not going to fit at all. Unless I trim the very edge of it just a little bit, but I don't know if they're running traces close to the edge, you know? If I could just shave a tiny off of the edge. Yeah, remember that? Pick up and it would scream at your ear. I don't know. I don't think that'll work. It kind of starts a little bit. If I sharpen the front of this, maybe it'll... I don't know, let's try it. What are we gonna lose? Actually, we could just... Yeah, where did that come from? That's a negative Ghost Rider? I remember people saying that back in the day, and I was just parroting what I'd heard. I don't know if I'm cutting off anything by doing that. I'd probably cut it all the way to the LED if I really did it, but we're just doing this as an aid. Get some lube. No. Unpervert thyself, chatter. Oh, that's not working at all. Nope, that's not doable. That's a shame though, because I kind of wanted this density. I don't know if there's any other strip that has this density. Yeah, there's 3 lines on the thing for the WS-2812, but if I shave that very edge off of the whole thing, I guess I'd probably be reducing some kind of a power trace. We could look a little closer at this and figure out where the traces are, but I don't know if shaving it is really going to get me the results that I want. It wouldn't be waterproof if I used this stuff in this way. Twitch, algo, or brain attention. Huh? Zoom in again. All right, hold on one sec. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's a negative. Ghost Rider's a Top Gun reference and fines you $5 if you say it at the school. No. Oh, if you, yeah, if you quote the movie at the actual Top Gun Academy or whatever. I don't know what that's, I don't know if I'm actually getting it in there. I think I am. Yeah, I'm actually getting it in. So this might be the alternative, although not a great one. It may, in fact, behoove me to run a string through the whole thing. Just break a little hole down here, or maybe in the back here. Run a string through the whole thing so that I can pull it through. This will fit. It's just kind of a beast to get in there. Oh, enter accident. Doing a great job. Just recently build a wLED bar cabinet. That's cool. Yeah, that's gonna fit. Wait a minute. This might be the lower current alternative. You can see there's a couple LEDs sitting behind here. This may be what we use. We might use this stuff. I like having the 2 rows though, because it's sparklier. So we're gonna go forward with this for now, but Will's gonna be visible from space. You're damn right. Damn Skippy she is, yeah. This stuff is not easy though. I'm like pressing it really hard to get it to move at all. But I do have a couple of these are populated now, and it pulls the thing tight. So that's an idea. Yeah, she's gonna look amazing, of course. So if I wanted the larger LEDs, you know, a little bit more, larger dots of light mean more visible. Yeah, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with wLED in terms of like lighting accent stuff and populating things with synced up lights that all do stuff. That looks really cool. I see a lot of like home lighting projects. The only problem is you are turning your house into a den of like neon, looks like you're in a, you know, a Schumacher Batman movie. It can be a little bit too much. So what I really like is spaced lights like on a surface. The thing that I was describing doing with the burn the sub screen, having LEDs that are spaced apart and still having an actual like synchronous display that has some interesting things happening on it. That's what RGBW is for. Like if everything's lit up with neon RGB, it's, I don't know. I feel like we've grown through that. There are enough programs out there that sync it up in a complex manner to kind of make things, you know, look different than it just going RGB, 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 which is what the computer rack does right now, and I've got to program that out of it. The magic happens when the magnet switch triggers and the party mode effects if you open the doors. That's hilarious. That's pretty funny, actually. You walk into the place with a splash of RGB coming around you. Wait, not that. No. Don't unpervert thyself, chat. This dense stuff would be our low current alternative. This is our super low current alternative. This stuff, which fits very easily, but it's way spaced out. And if you have just one row of LEDs, it's not a ton of light. It's way more than the collar used to do. But the dense ones barely fit. I can kind of fit these in, and that would produce a slightly better effect, and Willow would be very visible, still very visible. This is the bare minimum, and it works way better than what was there already. So, yeah. I'm not gonna like shave off the edges of this. It does fit, it barely fits. I could make a little tiny hole in the end here and put a string through this whole thing, and then like solder a loop on the end or something and pull it all the way through. I don't know exactly how I would do that, actually, to be fair, because you'd have to have the string detached somehow. And a wire wouldn't be good because then, you know, you got to get the LED all the way to the end and then detach the string, maybe a loop with a knot. And that could pull on just the LED, and then I could pull it down through all this stuff. There's a soldering iron burn hole right here, and that would probably catch the LED strip. If I really wanted to, I could fight all the friction of this thing and feed it through like this. Adding a pocket up in the ceiling for edge lighting. I had a buddy who had one of these Detroit houses that are all built kind of similarly, and he had places where he could hide LEDs on the other side of pillars and stuff. I lost contact with him, but he wanted me to make him a controller. Nowadays, I could just tell him products to buy and run wLED on, and then he could have his raver ceiling that he wanted to have. I've just imagined a waterproof pressure sensor inside the toilet, and whenever somebody drops something, then the entire toilet lights up in disco lights. Listen, ideas are cheap. The implementation of the idea is where the rubber meets the road. Don't let your dreams be dreams, okay? Ideas are cheap. All right, we'll get started today because we're doing a whole bunch of hardware. Fade out the music. My Deckard chill mixes that I keep using for these streams. I still haven't restarted my computer. Starts soon, goes away. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to my stream. This is the stream where I'm actually going to be putting LEDs in my dog collar. I have a corgi. She's adorable. She's the cutest thing in the world. But we go for walks at night, and the area that we exit the house, where the driveway is the first house on the right side of a stop sign. And there's a huge shrubbery between the stop sign and the driveway, so much so that it had to be linished back in order to display the stop sign better. The stop sign is barely lenticular. It does not reflect a whole lot of light back at the cars. It is not up for me to change out the stop sign. It's not my hardware. It's the town's. So, you know, and I would love to put put a picture of the stop sign on that. I'm thinking about two things at once. I would love to put a light on that stop sign, but again, it's not up to me. And so my very streamlined and aerodynamical dog should have some kind of a collar that lights up. And so I bought a light up collar for the dog. Oh, and you can see here, collars kind of vanish into my dog. Let's get one where she's looking at the camera. There she is. This is Willow. This is my 3-year-old fluffy corgi. She's a fluffy corgi, which means she has long hair. She's very cute. Very, very cute. And she died. Yeah, she's dead. Anyway, that's Willow. She's adorable. She's the best thing ever. I want to give her a light up collar so she doesn't get a Kia grill embedded in her face. So people whip around that corner. They ignore the stop sign, unfollowed. They whip around that corner with wanton abandon, with complete disregard for human and otherwise life. So I want her to light up. So I bought her one of these things. I bought another one of these because when you're building something like this, you always want to have extras because you can just, sometimes you can just brick your device and sometimes you just get bricked up. But anyway, so without bricking up my device, I'm just going to rip this. I bought her one of these collars and it's pretty good. It's got a couple lights on it that do patterns and stuff, and it lights up and it generally indicates the location of the dog. When she wears this, it ends up being these sort of vague white spots under her fur. The problem I have with this thing is when you first hit the power button, it goes into a blinking mode, whereas I just want it to be solid light. So naturally, the idea would be to completely hijack my stream for about 5 streams in order to put wLED into the dog collar. It turns out the Seed Studio Zhao is just small enough to fit inside of the enclosure that comes with this thing. It's just this little enclosure with a lithium-ion battery. Now, without sorry, the Steez Studio Zhao has an ESP32 version, which the ESP32 is, it's pretty freaking capable. It's a pretty amazing microcontroller. The ESP32 D3 version of the Zhao has battery management on it as well. So I can fit a Zhao in here. I can probably curl the antenna around the battery. It doesn't really matter. And then I can fit an extra little circuit board. Willow Fan donated $15 for dog treats and LEDs. I was having a discussion with my roommates. I'll call them my roommates. You guys can infer what they are to me. I was having a discussion with my roommates about how much Willow was eating during her day. So she has her dinner. She has a ball toy to distract her. Actually, that's the Tetris toy to distract her. She got the ball toy yesterday. She got the ball toy again. She got a treat when I went on an errand. She got a treat when the roommate left for the errand. She got a treat when the roommate came back for the errand. She got a treat when I washed her butt. And then on top of this, there are the walks where I give her a guaranteed 4, and then there's maybe 1 or 2 other little training things that I do on that walk. And when she gets in, I do a couple little tricks with her with half treats. And we wonder why the dog is gaining weight. This isn't even a whole day. This is like all the way to 3 p.m. A diet of pure treats. I know, it's like we gotta cut back. We gotta cut back. So hopefully, she's not gonna get the treat ball as much, but you treat her like she deserves. Yeah, but she's getting a little pudgy. I've been trying to exercise her. I'm pudgy. I am the fat one. Taking her around our half-mile circle here has to happen more often. I need to do that. I haven't been good about doing that. I've been starting to tighten the bolts on both my diet and my dog's diet. She lost 2 pounds between vet visits, though. So she's 41 pounds, I think. She should be somewhere around 30 to 35 because she's a big dog. She's a medium dog, but her breed, the male of the same breed is a big dog, just in stature. So, but anyway, yeah, that's my puppy dog. So what I'm doing is, of course, going completely overboard and building an LED dog collar that is able to run LED patterns in itself using wLED, which is a very versatile platform for doing this kind of stuff. It seems like there's not as much emphasis with wLED on doing a mobile device. wLED seems to really want to be inside of a device that is stationary, because these LED strips use a lot of current. The LEDs are fairly current hungry. They all have a microprocessor on them. They all have an ASIC on them that's controlling the R, G, and B, but it is 3 LEDs per driver. Some of them are 4, but these are fairly current hungry. As it is right now, I have the MOSFET turning on and off this strip, because when you turn off this device, it's relying entirely on just battery power to kind of sit there and wait for you to turn it on again. It's never truly fully off. But we need to turn off the chips in here so that they're not sucking down current. So I am getting a microamp level of draw when the device is off. When it's on, for some reason, and I think it's because I use the CMOS MOSFET, this thing is current limiting me to 300 milliamps, which is good because this is a 250 milliamp hour battery. So you can infer by the units, 250 milliamp hours means if I have a 250 milliamp device, sorry, I have bulldog noodle hiccup in the back of my throat right now. One sec. I'm about to spicily burp on everything. I think these LEDs might be a good option for your, hold on. Man, you guys, this is a shady link. I shouldn't be, you are at risk. You are at risk with this link. Oh, it's just an Amazon link. These are the, yeah, so I have these. I literally just showed you those. I just showed you these. That's not a good choice. Okay, I have 3 options for the LEDs that I can use inside of this thing, and they use different amounts of current. This is a 2.7 millimeter LED strip. We 3D printed a 0.6 of a millimeter backing in PETG. We're gonna put these in shrink wrap today, and we're gonna get all this stuff into here because I've got all of the features that I need. Hold on, just hold on, pile 3. I don't need. You're jumping in 60% through my explanations. I'm further along than you. Okay, here's the deal. So 250 milliamp hours means that at 250 milliamps, we can run this for an hour, right? Dimensional analysis. This current setup is current limited at 300 milliamps. Depending on which thing I use, as long as the thing, here I go again. I know, listen, I understand. I don't fault anybody for that kind of stuff. It's fine. Being excited about the project that some stranger is doing is a virtue. It is not something to be punished. And I really appreciate that you guys like the stuff that I'm doing. We did 2 rows of the 2.7 millimeter, which means we've got sort of a back and forth thing going, which means a lot of these patterns look really kind of interesting. They kind of send light back and forth, and they remain sparkly, and my dog remains visible. Remember, we are in a studio. We are in a filming studio. I have a lot of lights on right now. All these lights and the camera sort of auto-adjusting for the amount of light that there is means that these aren't going to look terribly bright, but they are. They are very bright. You can see they're casting light, even in spite of all the other lighting, down onto the table. So here's the deal. We got wLED working. We got a microphone working with wLED. These are the previous stream's achievements. I hooked up a button in the since Saturday when we were streaming last. I hooked up a button and I hooked up a MOSFET. So what happens is with wLED, if you get the user mod that's called Deep Sleep on the later microcontrollers, the ESP32, it has a deep sleep mode that's really good. It uses very, very little current. So what you do is you press a long press of the button to trigger a macro, and the macro contains the command toggle. Toggle is built into wLED because every now and then you go, enough is enough, and you turn off the 10,000 LEDs that you've installed into your house that are constantly ruining your vision and making your pupils the size of pinholes. It's like, this is enough dancing LED crap. I want to turn it all off. I'm going to hit the power button in the upper left-hand corner. Typically, without the low power mod, what would happen is it would just turn off the lights, right? And wLED would still be running. You'd still be able to get into this web page and mess with everything and turn it back on, etc. We are running a mobile device which needs to go into low power mode so that it doesn't discharge when it's sitting on the leash hanger. So what I've done is I've installed the low power mod. I've set up a macro over here that's just, no, I don't want you to actually toggle. I just want you to show the toggle preset. It's T is equal to 3, which turns off the LEDs. When you turn off the LEDs with the deep sleep mode, what this does is it actually, wait, should that be T equals 2? I think it should be T equals, maybe that's why the toggle's acting weird. T is equal to 2, let's save that. So when I do a long press, it turns off and the current draw from the power supply has dropped down to nothing. Now I could use another 2 digits on this amp meter. I don't know if the amp meter has if this controller has the ability to tell me with a little bit more resolution how many amps are being drawn. I think it does, but I went into the, what is it, the set mode? I don't see the current draw on this mode. There's got to be a way that I can have it display more digits. Let's just see if there's anything. DLED. It's like learning a whole new device. Let's get out of here. How do I get out of this? There we go. Okay, so 4.18 volts I have going into this thing and no current at all. Now you got to be careful with deep sleep, because if you don't have a button that's properly configured and hooked up to the pin you think it is, then you might not be able to get your device to unsleep. The WS20 takes about 1 milliamp each, even when they're off, so the FET's a really good idea. Yeah, it's a FET or a relay. Relay is, I've got it defined as a relay. It's built into wLED. Here's the problem. Here's the big problem with the circuit, and I've shared my circuit. We'll take a look at it in a minute. The thing about deep sleep, when this thing goes into deep sleep, I have it turning off the input pull-ups, and it's looking for a pin to go high. The reason it's looking for a pin to go high is that this thing can sit without having voltage on that pin. So I'm being very efficient indeed. Everything is just nothing, right? Those pins are allowed to float, which means that they have a varied amount of voltage on the output, depending on like sunspot cycles and radio stuff. So I have a pull-down resistor on the button pin. When this thing turns off, that goes to 0, everything sits. When I put a high signal into it, it wakes up and it goes to its initial startup preset. We can set a new startup preset on this thing. That took a little bit, and I bricked one of these before where I had it set to a pin that wasn't represented on any of the pins of this thing. Actually, it might have been one of the pins over here, but I just didn't know. So that comes up, it gets on the radio, it's drawing 300 milliamps right now. If I go to some of the other parameters, we can draw less than 300 milliamps. But again, like I said, 250 milliamps, 300 milliamps. I guess it's good that the MOSFET is a bit of a current limiter on it, right? Because when this powers down fully, we're drawing 140 milliamps. That is an abysmal amount of power to be putting from a battery. So with the LEDs off, this thing will last maybe 2 hours. Probably not though. Almost 2 hours, like an hour and 40, 50 minutes. So that's going to be a big major problem. The solution to that problem would probably be to put more battery into here. It looks like this enclosure can take a little bit larger of a battery if I had one, or redesign the enclosure to 3D print and then have it be a big thing. I don't think I can enable Wi-Fi on double click. I don't think that's a thing that I can do. My reading, I did a lot of reading about wLED. It seems like I can have that implemented. I would need to make something that does that, and I would need to put it into the Arduino code. That's not insurmountable. It's not within the scope of how much time I want to spend on this project right now, but I could make it drop Wi-Fi and just not have it until I double press, but I need to go into the Arduino code. As of right now, the way that we program on these presets is we have these sort of macros that we can run. Next FX does FX equals tilde, and that tells wLED that I want to go to the next special effect. So if I hit the button once, we can scroll through a list of effects. And you can do this with playlists. So we will make a playlist of presets that we can run through by single clicking this. And then within the presets, I'll have it cycle through on like a timely basis. And we will custom select presets so that they're not using a ton of power each one. So we have a little bit of time out there with the dog, right? And we want to actually choose the audio reactive ones as well. So these aren't, see, this one's not reacting to audio at all, but it is the right kind of thing that we want. So with these API macros, we can do all that stuff, except I can't turn off Wi-Fi. I looked at the Wi-Fi settings, and I don't think there's anything in the macro to turn off the Wi-Fi. There's no enable button on this, because this, like, if you turned off the Wi-Fi permanently, you'd be in a bind, right? So I don't know if there's a way that I can toggle it to save power. It would be nice to save, use less than 140 milliamps to try to connect to Wi-Fi. I could turn the Wi-Fi power way down. That might help. You can have up to 4 buttons on it, so it's just a small piece of code in setup. I would have to make something in the macro that would turn off Wi-Fi, like wLED JSON macro. Because you can use these JSON API stuff in order to create all kinds of cool functionality and hit a bunch of stuff. Let's see if Wi-Fi is in here. Base ID, Wi-Fi signal, Wi-Fi channel. Not what I'm looking for. But these are the only instances of Wi-Fi. See, they didn't build this stuff in here because they didn't want you to. They didn't think that you would be existing on a powered device, like a battery powered device with only so much. Macros way too much work to do. I would need to bring wLED into the Arduino IDE, which I guess I can do. I just have to somehow bring that in with all the user mods that I want to use. And then the user mods are interesting because they don't even consider use with the API. I wish I could program them with the API, but with these user mods like Deep Sleep, well, no, Deep Sleep isn't one of the ones. What's this one? Yeah, like battery, they say here's all, in the API section, they say here's all of these parameters that you can use, right? You can use these, but you can use them in code space. So VS Code and Platform IO, forget about Arduino IDE. We had a big discussion ahead of stream about that. I like my simple Arduino IDE. Unless you enjoy sadomaso. What? Sadomasochistic maze of pages and information? That's what I did yesterday. Anyway, so that's it seems like these user mods, they tell you about API, but I don't think they understood what API actually means. They needed to do a little bit more coding inside of their user mod in order to bring out parameters, because I guess everybody wants to do this in code, because if you have something like a battery level percentage, you want to do some manipulation to that in order to fit it to a bunch of LEDs. And they don't seem to want to display the battery percentage on the LEDs themselves. So the API inside of wLED, I don't know how functional that's going to be for this. As it exists right now, our wLED stuff is ready to be built into hardware. So I can get to all of this weird programming stuff later, but I wanted to build some kind of like an API JSON call that would bring in a preset. There's a percentage preset that would display the percentage of battery. I'm not finding a lot of information on how to get sensor data into this stuff, into the JSON API call. Because the JSON API is powerful enough to tell it, hey, I want this preset, and then I want this value here, this value here, this value here, right? And so I thought it would be capable of, and it's not really capable of, putting specific stuff into the API call from the user mods. I thought that's what it would be able to do. And I know a lot of you don't really understand what I'm talking about. I have sensors connected to this wLED device, and I would like the sensors to do stuff on the presets that I choose. It seems like I need to choose presets where the sensor has been already enabled. Like blurs has this next to it, which means that it has a certain, what is it, 163? What does that mean? That's the number of it, right? Breathe with me. Dun 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 dun. That's 2. Oh, candle multi. 102. Yeah, okay, so that's the number that it is in the thing. But blurs has a little note next to it, which means that it does react to audio, and it's got a slider related to the audio reaction. No wonder it draws my battery so fast, so much computing. Yeah, it's 140 milliamps for this thing when it's near Wi-Fi. Hello, this is interesting. Thank you. So yeah, and then the MOSFET that I'm using is just any old MOSFET that I found in my drawer. And that MOSFET, I think it's 5 volt logic level. So the 3.3 volts that I'm giving it, I'm putting through a 1 kilo ohm resistor, which makes this limit the current to 300 milliamps. It's limiting the LEDs to about 140 as well. Well, it's probably 150 milliamps for the LEDs, which I have 92 of. So 92 LEDs multiplied by all the current. This preset is not very bright. Some of the presets get pretty bright. They're pretty good. So let's put this all together. Have you considered using bigger ones? Do you not see that we tried to shove this thing into, because this would use less current or be brighter and have a ton of LEDs. It barely fits into the leash. I was just experimenting to see if it would. This would be my alternative go-to. It's a little less flexible and all that, but it does actually fit into the fabric pocket that has the semi-translucent, whatever it is, fabric. So that's what we would go to. We'd go to this stuff, and I could barely fit it in there. I think it would look really good, though. It'd be nice and dense, and there would be these big circles for each LED, and they could get pretty bright. The battery life would be longer on that tape? No. This is 90 LEDs. 90 LEDs. It'd be there is no battery light as of right now. I looked in the battery user mod. In the battery user mod, you can get the percentage of battery, but you can get it in the Arduino code. It's got like a global parameter or global function that you can run that'll give you the percentage of battery, but it gives you it in a string. So it says battery percent whatever. I don't know how I can get that to work. I found a tutorial where somebody put a battery percentage as text on a screen. So there's something I'm missing here that I need to learn in order to run the wLED stuff. And that means I've just got to look up more tutorials. My searches were getting so specific that this stream was coming up as the top result. I was like, wLED, sensor value, deep sleep, and it was my stream. I have a simple ESP32, which shows me temperature sensor value on site. But I was thinking of making an RGB control site to do it, but I'm not super expert with JavaScript and so on. Simple ESP32 shows me temperature. There is a tutorial that I found for battery percentage. No, it was a humidity and temperature sensor on a little screen using wLED. So that might be something to look at. I'm not sure how to get the sensor data. That's what I'm saying right now, is I don't know how to get sensor data to control parameters in the presets. Because that's how you would do it. You do it in wLED by doing that. It seems like all the things that I'm finding for how to use the sensor data involves compiling wLED on your own and doing C, Arduino C in order to program it. So that's sort of what I've learned. Maybe there's something that I just don't know about that'll do that. But like with this, the final implementation of the dog collar, what we'll have is we'll have a playlist of presets that we've modified or just put together and given color information and stuff like that. So it won't all be yellow. This is just the preset stuff. And then when I turn it off, I do a long press and it goes into deep sleep. This might, it'll come back up. I don't know why it does that. There, that's toggle. So it toggles off, and then we'll have that preset come up on the playlist, come up on boot. And the playlist will also flip to the different presets. But one push of the button, we're back in, and if I press this slightly, it'll go to the next parameter. If I want, well, the way that I would want it is if I actually compile this myself, I would have it not use Wi-Fi until I double press. When you double press right now, it doesn't do anything. So it just thinks it's interpreting it as a single press and going to the next one. I'm researching this thing and things related. I don't understand why they didn't. I don't know why our application is so different for them. Like all we want is long press power off, press for power on, low power mode when off, single press gives us the next in a playlist, double tap to turn on Wi-Fi so you can connect it with your phone. That's all I wanted. But anyway. I would say you might look into how the effect is done and create similar for the battery percentage. Yeah, that's what I mean. I need to look that up. There's a percent function which is designed to work off of a percent number for stuff. You could do Wi-Fi power as one. I would, if I am controlling this on a higher level, have two bars, two different colors. So when you turn off the device, it'll tell you how much Wi-Fi there is and how much battery. I guess if Wi-Fi is off, then you wouldn't want it to display anything, but I haven't figured this out yet. I did all this research on Monday and I didn't connect it. I don't know how people do this stuff. And it looks like the people that do this stuff, they're going into the Arduino to do it. They're going into the deeper code, because then you get the return on your function. And if it puts like an F on it, you can concatenate that off and not have the non-numerical space in your variable. You can cast it as an int and then put it into a Java call that will make your preset and have it react to the right scale of your numbers. So scaling numbers can't really happen in the API commands. So they would take that into Arduino code before turning it into a JSON call that would then give you that functionality. That's how that tutorial did it. But it was doing it with a separate device. It had a second device that was controlling it. Apparently you can disable the Wi-Fi hardware in wLED to save a nice chunk of power. It's an option on the web access page, but it's an on-off option. In the web access, not in the Wi-Fi setup. Yeah, I was looking for it here, and it didn't look like it had. I can limit the TX power. Set AP opens never. Whoa, wait, what do you mean? Force 802.11, we don't have, I don't think we have that. AP opens, I see. Never, not recommended. Temporary, no connection after boot. So it would be nice if we could set that as a button call. And if we could do that with the Java thing, that would be good, but let's check the list of JSONs then. There's going to be a lot of app in there that aren't what we're looking for. Routes for JSON API. Access point. Yeah, there are no AP opens commands. It stops the AP or the client connect. I think in the low power library, we need to look up creating like a JSON call that will put the ESP into a no Wi-Fi mode, right? And then we run that on startup, and that turns off the Wi-Fi immediately. And then if we double press, then we call that again, the JSON call again, and it'll turn on Wi-Fi. So we need to make a Wi-Fi toggle inside of the low power mode user mod. I think that's the way that we're going to end up doing it. All this programming stuff, by the way, is not what we're supposed to be working on today. These chuckleheads, I'm going to say chucklehead, even though I would be using the other version of it, but we seem to have some people who are like pretty new that don't really know that I curse a lot, so I might be open in somebody's office. And I don't want to just say chuckle fucks. Oh wait, no, I said it. Anyway, these chuckle fucks that have come in that seem to know quite a bit about wLED may not know that, like, I want to do the hardware today. I don't want to do all the software right now. They sidelined me. They derailed me into the software realm because I'm doing all of that research right now, and it's the stuff that I see my boss coming. He's running towards my desk. What do I do, bother? Anyway, so I didn't want to do software today because I'm still learning it all. It looks like we're probably going to have to custom compile this in order to get all these functions. And it's like easy when you custom compile it. If you get it all into the Arduino, which I can do, I'll just have to figure it out. I told my boss you're talking about him. All right, so anyway, we've got this thing running a couple parameters. I want to bake this thing into hardware. Do I permanently connect the LED strip, or do I temporarily, or do I use like a 4-pin header? Because if I go to this stuff, which this is the plan B, if the current draw is too much for us and it's, everything's running stupid hot and it doesn't look good with all of the little tiny LEDs, then I'll run this stuff, and then I'll get big, bold LEDs shining through the collar, and I've got enough of them that I think I'll be able to do some cool stuff. I like having the two opposed rows of LEDs, though. Don't blame us for your abundance of attention deficit. Yeah, if you didn't know that I'm diagnosed as ADHD by a professional doctor, this'll be your sign. So anyway, let's pack this into shrink wrap. And then we'll start working on the enclosure here so that we can, basically I'm going to build a whole second set of hardware. This is going to remain the test bed. I didn't build two of these little ones though. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe this won't remain the test bed. Either way, let's get this thing in shrink wrap already. What's that? I told him, I would just add Wi-Fi disable right in the startup, and then on a button click, I would call Wi-Fi toggle on a double start. On double click, start the AP. Here's the thing. The button functionality is not baked in to, okay. The button functionality is malleable and it is part of the user interface. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to permanently program the button functionality because button 0 GPIO 1, 2, 3, and 4 is assignable in here. So this version that I would compile myself, I don't want to do stuff like that in the back end and not have it be available in the front end. The way you have it available in the front end is in that user library, there is a section where it has the JSON callable API functions. And so you build that into the actual code. Like here, let's just go to user mods on the GitHub. So I would have to load this stuff from the GitHub, and I don't really like using GitHub. I would probably load all the software, download it to my machine, and then put it together in the Arduino API. And then I would have my own version of the dumpy Arduino code that I could then manipulate to my heart's content. That's how I like to do stuff like this. Obviously, the GitHub-headed people out there would be like, oh, they hold their nose up at you and say, you should do a git pull, git fork this, and then you put this in your butt and then you fork that and do that, whatever. if I go to something like, let's see, just a simple one. I just want a simple one that you guys can see here. Temperature, that's an easy one. So temperature user mod, based on the excellent Q and light, blah, 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 user mod, SIGAR 7, 400 kit. What the fuck is all that? DS18B20 temperature sensor available for the thing. They give you the installation, project link, changelog. There's nothing here about API. So define your options is there. Hold on, let's get one of the ones that actually does mention the API. So I can teach you a little bit about how this stuff works. See, you got me back on this software shit. You got me back on this software shit, and I didn't even want to. Let's do, not Artemis, my 19291. Oh, there's not even README. Hold on. BH1750, user mod. User mod, read from an ambient light sensor. Okay, cool. Yeah, you can do a lot with that. To enable, compile, and then blah, 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 blah. Configuration options. API. The following method is available to interact with the user mod from other code modules, not API. So other code modules can get illuminance, and that'll run the function in the C code that will get you the thing. But the C code, again, it gets boiled down into machine language and thrown into the actual thing. So if I have something in the JSON API call that tries to use get illuminance, that doesn't exist. That's something else in the ones and zeros. So I can't actually do that. Poor Willow will be a weather station. I know. I was thinking about putting all that stuff in there, having like 50 sensors in the things. It's like this thing knows more than I do about what's going on. Hold on, we're gonna find something that explains what I'm talking about. I need something that has, here, this will have an API call, sensors to MQTT. So if you want those sensors that you've included with your wLED stuff to publish to MQTT, and then I guess maybe you could have something pull sensor data from the MQTT. This is what I'm talking about though. People want to have a second microcontroller has hit the project. People want to have that second microcontroller in there doing all the data manipulation and then throwing it back onto like MQTT to then influence the LEDs. But we're a dog. We are a dog. We don't have multiple microcontrollers. We're a dog. I could maybe make multiple LED collars that go out there and communicate with a master LED collar, but that's really stupid. I mean, it would be cool to sync multiple dogs wearing LED collars, but like, man, we're trying to make a remote battery device. I don't know why they never thought that people would do this, because shit, like just even looking at wLED from 1,000 miles away, just reading a little bit about wLED, I want to cover myself in LEDs and have it sync up to some kind of a parameter with like accelerometers and stuff and just march around a festival, right? People seem like they haven't really done that. They haven't really cracked that egg fully. We can do that though. We can make that work. Yes, I know, there's a sync button at the top of wLED. It's right here. You see, you sync them off of one, and then they all do the thing. I just don't understand, like, so I guess one of them would have all the playlists and parameters in it, and that you could edit, and it would have multiple things, and you could have multiple segments connected to your singular microcontroller, but you can also have multiple microcontrollers that work synced with one another. But what I'm talking about is these JSON commands that are baked into wLED. It seems like the authors of all of these different like systems didn't think about accessing this with the API. And the API is the tool that we have in order to change the preset parameters and allow our lighting to respond to sensors. So what they have is they have an API, damn it, come on. They have an API section in a bunch of these. And in the API section, they just say, here's a bunch of things you can access from within the C code. We're not C code, we're an API call on the interface over here that is a preset parameter. So that's this over here, this stuff. Our preset API call. And that's how we do things like toggle on and off, or go to the next FX, or play, you know, an entry in a playlist and stuff. It's all in that. So it could be that API call could be a lot more powerful. It seems like the sensor stuff starts to explain what I'm talking about, but doesn't really, it's not fully implemented yet, I guess. So like, users wLED lets you load your own custom effects. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that is an API call. So yeah, the ones that are like temperature and humidity are the ones that I'm really looking for. 6-axis gyro and accelerometer driver, right? So in API, see, this says JSON API, this code adds IMU, quat, Euler, gyro, acceleration, real acceleration world. So you could potentially plug that into stuff, I think. Curious how you've mapped new stuff to press and long press. Oh, so that's, here. Let me show that quickly because that's part of the homework that I did and how I got this stuff to work properly. So I'll explain it from the top here. When you install usermod deep sleep, what usermod deep sleep is doing is if you hit that power button in the corner, instead of just powering off the WS2812s, you know, sending it a no display command, what it does is it puts the ESP32 into deep sleep. And what I've done in the usermod configuration for low power, this will lead into what I'm talking about. In the usermod configuration for low power, you need to really make sure that, first of all, your battery user mod doesn't have auto off enabled initially, so that if you don't give it quite enough power, it doesn't automatically hit that off button, because that's what the user mod will do. This will bring in later on, but before enabling deep sleep, because deep sleep when I installed it was enabled, you need to make sure you've got the right GPIO and you have the right pull up, pull down. And since I'm disabling the pull ups and pull downs and I am not looking for a low, I want ground on that pin. So I put a 100 ohm resistor from pin 0 to ground. It has to be pins 0 through 5. It has to be one of those for deep sleep. So what I did is I have a 100 ohm resistor that's actually in this mess over here. I have a 100 ohm resistor to ground, and then I have a, what is it? I have the button just directly mashing it with the 3v3 line from this. So the 3v3 line, the LDO stays active when this goes into deep sleep. So I've got 3 volts running out to the bus, and then I've got it coming back down to the button, and then the button just asserts a high on pin 0, which is GPIO 2. So GPIO 2 is able to wake this thing back up. Then, in order to have it turn off with the button, once you get all that established, I wish there was a page where it showed you whether or not the button was being pressed, because that would demystify some of the states of these pins. But so anyway, when you go into config, if you go into LED preferences, it's not an LED preference, but down here there are the buttons. So button 0 GPIO is 2. So in wake up, I have it on 2. Button 0 GPIO I have on 2, and I have push button inverted, which means active high, not active low. So now the push button parameter, when the device is awake, listens on that pin for my push button. 2 separate systems. One of them is wake up from deep sleep. The other one is push button 0. And I have them both assigned to the same button. And that's how I do it. It's like a radio operator. Anyway, so that's how I do that. Okay, great. Button 0 is now assigned and works. So then in, what is it? Which one is it? Time and macros is the next one, because we are triggering a macro with a button. That's how buttons work. So time and macros, the third location. We come down here, and right above all of our time schedules are the button schedules. So you have button 0 runs macro 244 on a short press. Now, if you invert, I don't know if on and off switches, on for the button counts as high, I guess, whatever. But a short press runs 244, a long press runs 245. I don't have anything on double tap yet. So that's why in the code, we could build in a macro that would turn off Wi-Fi, and we'd need a JSON call to turn off that Wi-Fi, because the way we do buttons is by triggering macros 244, 245, and 250, I think, came with something. I don't know what 250 is, but these are numbered based on the numbers you give them. I gave them high numbers because I want the low numbers to be the visual stuff. The visual stuff is when you run one of the effects with a palette and have that run on the LEDs. You can do that with the preset macros too, right? And so toggle is simply the JSON call. Actually, that's an HTTP call. T is equal to 2, which represents toggle. So when I long press the button, I don't know why it does this. It fades out and then it comes back on, and I long press the button and it turns off, because it runs macro number 245, which is toggle. Now that it is turned off, the low power, the deep sleep mod, the user mod that does deep sleep, has actually fully slept this device. So when I single press this, this can sit for a while without using up any current. It's looking for a high signal on pin 0, and that's a separate system that's looking for it. Pseudo-memes, thank you for subbing. So a separate thing this is now like a base microcontroller feature where everybody's powered down. It's not doing Wi-Fi. It's not doing anything. It's doing the utter bare minimum that it can manage to do. This is something that a lot of microcontrollers can do. And it's using something like 50 microamps. The low power, the low dropout converter that's inside of the little cage there on this microcontroller platform, that LDO doesn't have an enable and disable. So during deep sleep, it's still enabled. That's probably going to be the primary current user of this whole system. It's going to be sipping on that battery constantly. I don't have any control of that. If we made our own custom hardware, I'd probably have control of that. And then I could fully shut this thing down. It's still creating 3.3 volts out of the 4-ish volts that the battery has to offer. I've catered some of the circuit around that, but one of the pins is also set up to be a relay. So when I power on, it will set that pin high or low to enable the relay. And so I've got a low side driver MOSFET sitting on this thing. That MOSFET is hooked up with a 1 kilo ohm resistor. It's a logic level MOSFET, and that limits the current at 300 millivolts for both the lights and the microphone. So right now, this is in its own microcontroller specific thing. It's looking for a high signal to go into that pin 0. Give it the high signal in the pin 0, this fully restarts. It's starting from a fresh start in the very first preset. Now we can set on the preset, we can have it actually be apply at boot. So I can have a playlist that's apply at boot so that when this thing boots up, it gets into a parameter that I like. I don't know if there's a random playlist entry. That would be a good one to use. But now that wLED is running again, if I single tap, it's going to run this HTTP API command, which is load the next FX. I don't know why the HTTP, but anyway, whatever. So I hit it once, and we go into the next sort of preset number 1, 2, 3, 4. Whew. So that was the stuff that I worked on over the weekend. I know it's a lot. I hope that makes sense to anybody, front loading the stream with that explanation. Hopefully some of the people who are looking for wLED information and how to run it will get that information in my manic explanation just then. This is about the Wi-Fi stuff earlier, but because just checking the features macro pages, it mentions the wLED AP. So couldn't you have it never start Wi-Fi on normal boot and hold for greater than 6 seconds to direct connect to change the settings? I would like to be able to get into it with Wi-Fi in case I want to do the weird stuff. Sorry to disappoint you, but you won't be able to call HTTP to toggle Wi-Fi as with the whole back end. Okay, so here's the deal. The whole back end what? Toggle Wi-Fi as the whole back end requires running Wi-Fi to work. That may be one of the problems, but I was just getting into how to program that, and if I had some kind of a function to sleep that part of the microcontroller, which would drive a whole bunch of errors, then you would do it in, where is it? There's the loop here. We're not doing that. We would be running not add to config. It would be there's read from config, add to config for the UI, and then there's another parameter in sort of the stock thing that is the JSON API call. The HTTP stack needs the Wi-Fi backend. Totally random tangent. There's a really cool way to control wLED and other things. A show sequencer. Yeah, there's apparently a computer program that you can use to sync them all too and make them do cool stuff to your music. So Deep Sleep doesn't do JSON calls, so it's not going to be in here. But if we look deeper into some of these, this one's interesting because they're actually available as JSON things. But yeah, this one will have it. So let's just look at the code here. So there are sections of this code, the class, the loop, the setups. Here's the loop. Add to JSON info is how you add these sort of calls. So this is where the code is actually has stuff that you're able to get out of this, and it runs these like functions in itself in its own code and outputs that JSON data. Add to config. Yeah, these are complicated to set up, but they can allow your users to control more complicated things. And the low power mode was set up specifically just as like a basic framework. The way that I have it working right now is how it'll work if you just install it. Adding on to no Wi-Fi mode, I could probably make that happen. The question is, again, if I do that, and if I do that just on the surface level, we could just see what we run into. It'll probably be a string of errors that stop the microcontroller from running by the looks of it, because HTTP is baked into it so deeply, it needs to actually be able to connect to something. Having it just not connect to anything would still use all the Wi-Fi stuff. That's why I'm looking at low power mode, because the ESP allows you to just wipe the entire functionality of the Wi-Fi out of the thing. Yeah, and then baking into that, if I can make a like a toggle function out of it for a JSON call, then we can add it to the macro for a double press. That's how you do things in wLED. That's how you're supposed to do things in wLED. The way that I saw one user using this stuff and doing something advanced, they were doing a humidity and temperature on an LED display, and wLED can handle turning a value into text and putting it onto an LED grid. But what they did is they had another wLED, or they had another device do the JSON call from the wLED device, manipulate the data and put it in the right place, well, manipulate the number. They made that other device grab the number and then publish it back over as a JSON API call to put it back on the screen. So that's how they got their 47% from the humidity sensor over there. Or no, it was the humidity sensor on its own local device. So it basically used the API call and just shoved it into the other device to get temperature and humidity. That's one way to do it, but it's not, it's the data manipulation part of it is something that the API can't do. It would be nice if they figured that out, because then we could just do this all with the API. Like, I don't know what they're getting at with people being able to put like macros. And what is this one? Oh my God. This is like URLs like this, man. Let's copy it, paste it in here. I know Short Lurker's good for these links. He's not gonna like suddenly link me to meat spin. Wait, it posted the whole thing. Oh, the copy feature in this is so bad. The copy feature in Social Streamblade copies like the entire comment. It's so annoying. Yeah, this is what I was looking at too. Each macro is a format standard HTTP call without the IP. Optionally, the winand may be omitted. For example, the macro A is equal to 255 sets the brightness to maximum. RGB, blah, 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 it sets the color range. You can specify up to 16 macros. Simplest macros example, getting started with a button. You have your macro number in the upper left-hand corner, and then you just assign it to button 0. Now, yeah, we're supposed to be working on hardware, but I did a lot of research over the weekend, and I just want to make sure you guys know that I'm working on things in the background. That's why I use 7TV copy tool. This is what I've been trying to say. The reason that I have the buttons without a pull-up is because in low power mode, all those pins become floats. And if the pin becomes a float and it's pulled up to like well, I guess the LDO is still on, so I guess I could probably do that. I just didn't want power going through that pull-up. I guess it's probably high Z, isn't it? So maybe that isn't that big of a deal. I have it on a pull down, but that pin is allowed to just float. Oh, it should jump down to the highlight. Oh, there's the highlight. The default built-in actions for button 0 are short press, toggle on off, and long press, select a random color. Long pressing for more than 6 seconds will open up the wLED AP with the default password wLED1234. That's if you want to just access the local device. So if I just made the AP not connect, I can hold it for 6 seconds and then it will connect. So you're saying that right now I could jump into the settings and disable AP connection and see if that actually saves us some power. Is that what I think I've got? I think I've read Short Lurker properly. What's funny is it just auto connects here and it doesn't ask me for a password. But if I go to, not time and macro, to Wi-Fi, and I come down here, wait, no connection after boot. I don't think this will save us though. Leave empty for no AP, MDNS address. I think it'll just automatically try to connect, won't it? It's a never-ending task, constant research on stream. No, it's a never-ending task because I always get to one part of the explanation that might be a little dubious and people jump in and then the whole thing starts again. Something like that, but for a test, hold 6 seconds to see if it'll go back to wLED AP first. Don't disable it and accidentally soft brick. So the default, wait, to get it to not connect to AP? I need to look at the page again. Toggle on off. Long press. Select random color. Long pressing for more than 6 seconds. Opens the wLED AP with a default password. But that not having the AP connect doesn't mean that the Wi-Fi section of the micro is going to turn off. So I don't think that's going to save us power. This will save you when away from home, Wi-Fi, as it will not create the AP. Huh. What is that? Well, right now I have no connection after boot. Oh, I see. So that would be, I would connect to that via my phone's Wi-Fi and be able to directly edit things on the ESP if in case it's not able to connect to my server over here, or this thing up here, the glorious PCMR. Yeah, if it's just scanning for my home Wi-Fi. But if I have no access point on this, oh, but wait, no, but it's no connection after boot. So it boots up and it's not doing the AP. If I long press, it'll then open the access point. If I tell it never, then I could perhaps never get into it if this messes up. I think I understand this now, and I don't want to play with the options. I don't want to play with this. But if I do have like a deep sleep mode that disables that, I could then go into the code for the default long 6-second press, and I could add power up Wi-Fi, open up the AP. I could do that in my own custom version. Or I could just have the long press fully enable Wi-Fi. Although it's probably better that it does the access point, so I don't know. I was wondering if you kill the Wi-Fi as a compile option, can long press 6 seconds enable Wi-Fi? There's probably a deep sleep thing that I would need to run. So similarly to how the deep sleep user mod has basically done all the work for me, I would need to look up what the Wi-Fi, the ESP Wi-Fi code is. That's essentially what the user mod wanted you to do, was to go in and actually just edit it yourself and be able to edit these parameters on your own and make your own thing. Yeah. Yeah, because their functions are in this code. Actually, is it? Is it in that? Yeah, it is just one thing. Define deep sleep, wake up. Bool enable true, blah, blah, blah. Wake up pin, deep sleep, wake, and deep sleep, wake when high is the function that they're using. Are they using a driver real-time clock IO, wLED, and they're not using like a library or anything. I guess there were no other files. I should have known there's no library. And then this is just like a function. Is it? Yeah, all of the user mods are not incredibly well documented, and I don't think they understand. I think the API section of the what is it? The template. The API section of the template is for this API. You're supposed to talk about this API command, the JSON stuff, and instead they say you can use these functions outside of my thing in C code. And it's like no, that's not what we meant. I think everybody misunderstood what it was supposed to be. That you were supposed to build in these sort of macro APIs so that you didn't have to do what I'm about to do later on, which is to jump all the way into microcontroller code in order to do this. You're supposed to be able to author your own little thing that would use the numbers and then have parameters related to the numbers, like the scaling and stuff you could have in a setting, but it's too complicated. And I think they're not quite implemented yet. Like they're going to get to it maybe. Anyway, let me get shrink wrap and stop talking about this crap. Jeez. The numbers, Mason, they're hiding something. I'm going to hesitate to put a connector on this, and then we're going to have to build up like a new set of hardware in here. And then I'll be able to do testing for this. Before this ever sees my dog, I am going to run it for 24 hours. I'm going to plug it in to USB, run it for a bunch, unplug it, see what it does when it gets to low battery. All that kind of like consumer device testing needs to be done before I allow this anywhere near my dog. I'm not going to be able to do like flex testing and stuff though. I guess I can just power this thing off. I guess so. Feels bad. I've had it on for 3 days. Yeah, so it seems like I'm going to have to jump all the way down to microcontroller code. If these user mods were a little bit more kind, then they would probably have done API calls in HTTP or in JSON so that you could pull the numbers. But the problem is when pulling the numbers, like there is a percentage, whatever it is, a percentage preset. So if you've got some kind of a pull on a number and it happens to be 0 to 100, then you can assign that to be the percentage of the LED strip that's being illuminated. That's what exists inside of those different presets. So you would use a different preset in order to display your number, right? And so you wouldn't have to go all the way down to code. How would you make that scale your number? So you would need to have something that outputs a number that's able to be utilized by either a 0 to 100 or a 0 to 255. And so I guess instead of doing that work, all of the authors of these different things are just simply like, you can open this in C code if you need to do something weird. And that's it. That's all you get. So having it in the Arduino IDE and able to compile on my own is probably going to be a necessity. And I'll have to put in all of our default settings into that as well. I just got to find where you do that. And I don't want to like do git clone and all that stuff. I don't know how to do that. This is running into friction. I bought 6mm shrink wrap just for this project. If we go to this stuff, I guess I won't be able to like waterproof it. Did I say how long the pseudo maze? Was that a sub that I saw? Pseudo maze sub for 8 months. I think I said 8 months. That's awesome. This is not moving. I can't get it to, please. Oh, an 8-month streak, but subbed for a grand total of 14. Heck yeah. What if I like put it down on the desk so that it's going straight? Yeah, it's been a weird project. This has been a weird project, but I really like it because it's LEDs are very flashy, and Willow's very cute and all that. And once I've done this fully, I'll have a pretty well fleshed out device. The two routes that I can go from here, because I don't think I'm going to be satisfied. I think I can either find a bigger battery, just use up that amount of space, and maybe 3D print this so that it's square on the ends, or well, that would be the nuclear option. I mean, it doesn't really look like I could core this out and extend the battery because it tapers inwards at that front piece. It doesn't really need to taper inwards. It just sits behind this. So I could get a slightly larger, maybe a 300 milliamp hour battery in there, which doesn't exactly solve this problem of this strip eating so much current. I like this strip though. If we use some of the sparkly things on this strip, we might get about 2 hours of runtime. So choosing LED parameters that aren't solidly lit would be the other way to do. There we go, that got it moving. I have to like push it down a little bit so it doesn't catch. All right, there we go. There's our environmental protection. Just give that a little overrun. I think that'll be enough to keep moisture out, mostly. And then I've got to squish it as I go, because otherwise it's going to pinch this stuff. Actually, that might be okay. Heat gun is always the option. I don't use a lighter. What? Why is this stuff not shrink? Wait a minute. What the hell? What the hell kind of heat shrink did I get? Oh, there it goes. This is wiggling a lot. See, and then as I'm going, it's going to soften the PETG with all this heat. What's funny is that I attached this to the rough part of the 3D print. I didn't attach it to the smooth part, which would have been better for the adhesive. That was dumb. Just got to keep it flat. Keep it flat. Keep it moving. Nice and tight. Oh no, it's bending a little bit. Shit. as the PETG is getting exposed to the heat, it's starting to bend it inwards. Oh no, no. Let's finish this. Hopefully it won't squeeze it too much. I should do this in very small increments. I have to get the temperature just perfect or else it's curling it. No! Stop curling! Oh no! I guess I could put it in the vise and uncurl the curl. Shit. This has not gone to plan. My only option would be to crush it in the vise to fix it. I think it'll be okay though. Oh man. The shrink wrap is pulling it taut. It's crushing. It crashes. I crush your head. That area is particularly bad. I mean, they sort of still face outwards. I think they'll have the same effect, but if I really wanted to fix this, I could... Let's try. Hold on. You have to try. Maybe if I heat up the vise and then crush it like that, it'll flatten it. Ah, what a bunch of piss. I knew this would soften the PETG, but I didn't know the effect would be for it to pinch it in. I got it right on most of it though. I think it'll be okay. Let's see what it looks like. I think it'll be okay. This messed up one can be my own personal collar. Okay. Let's see what these look like. We haven't seen these in the collar yet. and then we'll build up the set of hardware. So the trick that I had for doing this is to use a piece of copper pipe to straighten out this whole thing first and kind of open up the chamber so that the little LED array can just slide in. And with the shrink wrap around it, that means that all the edges from the LEDs themselves will be a little softer. And this will be able to slide against itself, basically. Okay. Assuming that I can even get this thing in the first place. Come on, bud. I know I'm gonna need like multiple 18650s on this thing in order to power it up for any amount of time. So yeah, that just pushes this into round and then straightens the whole collar. And then I can shove this thing in much more easily. Yeah. I don't have any way to pull it from the other side, so that's still pretty flexible with a strip of PETG in there. And then if we take a look at what it looks like, this goes on pin 8. Pin 8, and then positive is this one. That goes on. The FET is driving ground, so this one can go on the battery output here. And then this one goes on the bus ground for everybody else. So I'm cutting off ground from here. This goes to the FET, and the FET supplies ground to the bus. And then turn on the power supply. Bada bing. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, you guys can't see it. I can see it. It's pretty bright. Oh, it's not down there all the way. It's actually has a little bit of space. Hold on. Power it off again. Yeah, that's why I made this overrun quite a bit, because now I can push on this and get it all the way down there. There we go. That's all the way to the end. There we go. There we are. Jolly good. All right, so switched ground and unswitched battery. Is that unswitched battery? Wait, where am I putting the battery? Oh, no, you know what? This doesn't go there. This goes here. No wonder it was so dull. This goes directly to the battery pin, which is right here. And I'm being careful not to connect these backwards, because that'll kill the initial WS2812s. And yeah, actually, I think this is 5-volt compatible, but if you connect it backwards, it will blow up the LED, and then I've got to go in and cut the strip. So do we need to be concerned about the data pin sinking extra current if ground is disconnected? I am concerned about that. I haven't seen the current draw happen. There was no current draw. That can happen sometimes. Hopefully these WSs are good on that, because I don't want to actively power. I don't want to put power on the MOSFET. I think there's very little leakage current through a FET, but I would have to have power sitting on the pin that controls a high side driver. If I was to switch power to the strip and the accessories, that's what I wanted to do. I do have a couple P-channel MOSFETs that I can do that with, but then you have to have a resistor going to the positive voltage. I guess I could do that, and then when the microcontroller powers down, if it goes into low power mode, you can't drive a pin high when it goes into the low power mode. I can't have it drive a pin high, so I'd have to have, well, that would be pull-up driven. So it would be driven by its own pull-up, and then when we power up, that pin goes to 0. It was cleaner to do a low side driver, I guess, because then I have a resistor that goes to ground, and then when it powers up, it'll power that pin and power the FET directly. I don't know, man. You know what? I don't freaking know. I just connected it with the low side driver because that's how they always do it. I wanted a high side driver. I didn't think it would be low power or usable when the pins turn off, but that's not true. I just reasoned myself out of that one. Maybe a resistor on the data line would be an easy fix. To what? No, there is no. Oh yeah, sometimes you put a resistor on your data line, and that limits. I don't need it. There's no leakage without ground. These things are fully powered off. They're not getting ground through the data pin. That can sometimes happen, but in this case, I'm not seeing it. I don't see the current draw. So all right, let's power back on. Uh-oh. What did I do? What did I do? Ground here, power here, data to data, ground, power. That should by all means be working. Double check that I got the data pin right. Yes, I did. I tried powering it on again. Maybe there's a little short over here. Make sure that these two are the same length, so I got to make sure they're not connecting with each other in our setup. This thing's connected, this is connected, these are all connected. Let's power it on again. We're not drawing any current from the micro. What's going on? Power button? No. WS2012's ground is connected. Power is here. WS2012s are here. What are doing? So these are situated. Everybody should be happy. We're only drawing 0.3. Leads are connected. Leads are not shorting us out. We are 0.3 of an amp still. And we should be drawing more than that for the micro. Power button again? No, nothing. Remove data line. Reconnect the data line. Typical. .1 amp. Now it's drawing 0.3 amp. Did maybe my FET finally die? Push on the stuff. Just push it down a little bit. I didn't change anything. What the deuce? Why did you do this to me? Okay, double check. Power is on. We've got 30 milliamps running into it. This is ground. This one is definitely the power pins. This one is ground. Ground with the FET. Boots with the fur. Just a resistor. Everybody's got a good connection. Why did we duck out? What the deuce? What are you doing, micro? It's not even powering up. There was barely any chance for me to F it up here. There should not have been any chance for me to affect this in any way. Hit the reset button on this. There we go. What was the deal? Why did you do that? What's up, Gonad? Let's turn the lights off. Yeah, now we're talking. Look at that thing, the neon radiance. So I don't have any things set up yet, so we can go to like frequency matrix. Oh, this thing hasn't connected yet. There we go. Yeah, I'm liking that. Yeah, so there's some cool parameters that we can actually set up inside of this thing. Cool. Where's that going? Is that one's audio reactive? This looks so much different in person. I don't think you guys can really get the breadth of this thing. Let me try messing with the camera settings. So if I turn the auto white balance off, we leave that alone. No backlight compensation. I can't change the gain? Oh, why isn't that changing at all? Interesting. Camera control. No low light compensation. Let's turn our exposure, auto exposure off and turn it down a little. It doesn't look as clean as it does in person. We'll focus there. Processing amp, turn the gain way down. That's way up, hold on. Gain down until it looks all right. White balance to 43. Let's see what that looks like. It's looking a little better. I don't think we're going to retain, or not going to, the blooming around the LEDs is always going to be there. LEDs are like notoriously difficult to get on camera. What I'm seeing right now with my Mark I human eyeballs is a bunch of like individual points of light in there. What's that? This would be good info to remember for a project I'm working on for school, along with your experience making flexible PCBs. Yeah, I don't know what's going on tariff-wise. Those pesky fucking tariffs are all over. Oh, excuse me, I'm hiccuping in the middle of saying something that's important. The tariffs are very, very pesky, and I don't know if they're going to affect my ability to internationally source things like cheap flexi PCBs. As it is right now, it is affecting it, and it sucks. Insulin Addict, there's a good one. I like that. What's good, y'all? We're working on Willow's LED collar. We're going to do a little bit of hardware today. More hardware today, although we're 3/4 through stream. Fucking, god damn it, chat. I'm 3/4 through stream, and why is it? Oh, this is dark because I turned off all my lights. 3/4 through stream, and I was explaining software the whole time. All the other dog owners are going to be jealous. Look at this. Bark. Ruff. Bark, bark. Now, I am going to make it like shuffle through the palettes and stuff so that it does cool stuff. Let's see if I can, let's turn the lights back on. And see if the Brio, oh my god! It's just flashbanged myself. Ah! Yeah, we have it set in low light mode just so this can be a little bit more visible, but it's not as bright as you guys may think it is. It's just that LEDs are like impossible to film. They really are. It's very difficult to find parameters that allow you to film LEDs doing their job. You can just see by the amount of light that it's casting off that they are pretty bright. They shine through the collar really well. They look like individual points of light. Like these over here on the trailing edge of this stuff is kind of how you can see it. If I go into the software and I lower the brightness significantly, it might look a little bit closer to what I'm seeing. Where yeah, see, that's a little closer to what I'm seeing. They're not as diffused as you would think. But again, I'll have to do like some color presets on this thing so that we can see all kinds of cool effects. What is this one called? Perlin Move. I don't think it's audio reactive. Nah. The muffling effect of the outer shell is going to be significant too. I'm probably going to have to build all this stuff in the background while you guys aren't fucking pissing me off. You freaking view. I love you guys. I love my viewers. You guys are amazing. I could have Willow's collar react to my insulin, my blood glucose level. That's an easy one. That would be an API call for that would be an API call for, where is it? For APS, and I've had recommendations before on how to do it. So I could get that number and I could apply it to an insulin, not an insulin, a glucose level effect. Grav center. Yeah, some of these will use up a lot of current, depending on the colors that I choose. Make it purple. Actually, this is violet. This is a cool violet, and you guys can't see it. It's unfortunate, though. Frequency pixels. Do it. I dare you. I dare you to use the brown note. Look at this dog collar. How cool is that? That's going to be very cool. The problem we're going to have with this one, though, is battery life. Battery life is unfortunately going to affect this one very badly. I doubt it's very cheap, but this company makes PCBs in California and Arizona. Yeah, but it's going to be like $500. What's up, Cyanide Tech? I didn't even see if the Ideal Light came on. It should have. Should have. It should have. Should have is the right usage. I like saying the wrong thing sometimes. Oh my God. That almost looks red in comparison. Yeah, so you guys don't see, I've dimmed these all the way down because the camera's very sensitive to the LED brightness. Yeah, this is like a goddamn flashbang right now, and it's not even that bright. It's like 60% bright. This is going to be cool. Willow will look very cool with this on. I'm just concerned about how much battery we're going to get out of this. Right now, it's drawing 160 milliamps. So if I have it on this bright, which is, oh my God, my eyes. This is not very bright. But for a dog collar in the dark, it would probably be okay. This is what I could make the LDR do. I can make the light dependent resistor dim this when it's dark out. So if it's like midnight and there's no light around, it would be this bright and it would still be just as visible. And if there's a lot of light around, I could have it get brighter. But if I put it to normal brightness, that's like enough that you would definitely see the dog there. You would see that dog, especially if it was red. Bark, bark. See, and then the background FX color, I should change to actually be something that's a little bit more visible. So if we go to like a blue for the background, that is way too visible. Turn it down a lot. So if it's like very, very dim purple, so that the dog is still visible, but when she barks, it'll go red. Woof, woof. It's much more striking in person. It looks way better in person. Go to like super red. Super red is bringing in a lot of like yellow. Or if I go to like green. Yeah, see, that's really visible. A dog backpack full of batteries. The thought was with this 2.7 millimeter thick LED stuff, I could put this where the reflective strips are on a harness, and then we could have much more interesting LED effects on the dog. But we're not doing that yet. For now, this is just a nighttime walk accessory. Make them go light green at some point. Our brain notices that color more. That's what they're doing right now. It's hard to catch, but they're going from blue to green. So it's like a dark purple, and then when the dog moves, it goes green. It's very lizard coated right now. Or is that a violet? I think that's violet. This would be a good one. There's lots of palettes for these parameters too. You can go different palettes like beach. This is beach. Oh, but that's only on one color thing? I don't understand. It didn't go to beach. Weird. Okay, yeah. Frequency wave. That's frequency wave. That's not... I'm not looking for that one. MIDI noise? Or mid noise? Sounds weird. Background to that color. Oh, jeez. Wow. It suddenly goes teal. Bark. What's happening right now is the two strips are basically the signal goes down this lane and then flips and comes back. I could have done 2 pins out of this and run them as 2 different segments. That would have been a possibility. I could have done some other effects with that, but instead we're just going down and back. I could define the segments as well and do one in reverse and one in forward and split this up data-wise. We don't need like a high frame rate on this. We've only got 90 LEDs, right? So it's not really going to cause slowing down. And our power is actually being fed from this side for both of them, and the power gets all the way through. So we're good in terms of like the hardware setup of the 2 strips. If in wLED I can split these up. Right now, this is an effect that comes from the center. So it looks like it's coming from one end, but this is the center of the one single strip. Man, that's cool. That's cool looking. This is sort of the first hardware test that we were able to do. Noise? Does that... that's too bright. I can't see anything. She's gonna be so visible. What? Oh, that's a... Hello, it is me. I am the computer. Wait, it stopped doing it. It's me, computer. Hello. There's fade rate, puddle size, select bin, volume, minimum volume. That's way too... So this would be like... It's not triggering on anything. Boom. Boom, leg shot. Hey. No. All the way down. There's like a dwell time on it. What is select bin? Oh, weird. I bet with more LEDs, this would be a more striking effect. Some of these are meant for, like, you know, lots of rows of LEDs. Rocktivs. Rocktivs does a bunch, doesn't it? That's kind of a cool one. Because at least there's something that would run on the dog if she was being totally quiet, which she typically isn't. I mean, on a nighttime walk, like her evening walks are when she plays with a lot of her friends. And if it's daylight savings is going to hit like in a week or two. Once daylight savings hits, this is no longer going to be a thing, unfortunately. Like, I almost never use the light up collar, which is why, you know, a 1 hour runtime is totally fine. But if I can get parameters like this running on it, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, with different color presets, you get different things happening on this. This one's called Cayenne, and well, it's definitely Cayenne. Grintage. That's a little bit more varied. It's like, what is going on with your dog? Why does she have, like, because this will be in like a rotary scenario. So it's gonna be like this with the light going back and forth on her. That's gonna be cool. All right. Well, we're gonna have to do more hardware. I'm gonna have to build a circuit board for this, and with that circuit board, I'm gonna have to put certain things on it. So we just leave this like this, as long as my leads don't short out over here. The debate that I'm having sort of with myself. Let me put my camera back the way it was. So arm procedure. It's gonna get real dark, and then I'll turn all the lights back on. Oh, look at that! Actually, with that brief little thing, it looked really good. Wait, what was that? That was a... Hold on a second. I can make this look good. I messed it up before. It didn't look right. I think if I just do the exposure... Oh, yeah, and then you can't really see anything else, but this is kind of what it looks like to me right now. Only I've got better low light. But yeah, this is the little dots is what I'm seeing. It's not as smoothed over as what you guys are seeing. But it's fine. I mean, this is really cool. It works really well. Are some of these LEDs actually being covered over by... Not really, kind of. If I trim this a little closer, we could get more representation of LEDs. Although we do get light all the way down here. Yeah, that gets pretty close to the end of the thing. It's so pretty. I know, isn't this cool? Like, come on. All these patterns that people actually like put care into to make sure that like their LED stuff looks good. And I'm putting it on my dog. Where's some of the other ones? I'm just scrolling through the list of things. Solid pattern, try. Okay, it's a solid pattern. This is a little sloppy down here. I think these are the ones that distorted a little bit. They look kind of crushed together. You guys can't see that. You can barely see as it is. Strobe rainbow. What is it? I don't know what that one's doing. Strobe mega. Ah! Oh God. Wait, why did it stop? Oh my God. That is not, I do not want to strobe my dog. I don't think that's a good idea. Default colors. See, the color of things brings itself into all of the presets. So all of these are sort of purple and green. Traffic light? What's that doing? Oh, see, the more intense ones you guys can't really see. Lower the brightness. Well, Willow Fan actually donated $15 for treats and stuff, so maybe we'll get her some safety glasses that she can wear while this thing does itself. This one simulates TV, although the palette, it's really not going back to the original palette, is it? Waterfall. Oh yeah, so this is audio responsive waterfall. Kind of cool. Because then the dog would be illuminated and she would go, "Burf," and then all the colors would change. We need police dog. Let's see, random wipe, no. What would police dog be? There we go, spots, and then we make the FX red, and we make the background blue. There you go. It's hard to see. Why is it so hard to see these different? It's it's like we've had a head injury. I think at this level of brightness, the focal distance is huge, or it's tiny rather. Oh my God, we've got a novel in chat. Right now I'm working on a coworker's controller, and it's Scuff modded PS5 controller he gave to me with stick drift. I replaced the sticks with Hall effect. That went well, but now I'm dealing with the triggers not working properly. PS controllers have a weird way of doing triggers where it uses like a crushed button in order to short out a resistive material, which is very annoying indeed, because the repair is just to replace it. Maybe we need to be at 5 exposure, and then I need to come in here and do a little bit of gain control. That still makes the LEDs totally blasted out. I don't know. I don't know how to make this look right. Ooh, that just washes it out. Used SMD switches, kind of like what you find in a mouse. I need to track down some of those. Who used that? Wait, what? On the PlayStation controller? What version is this? The single push button switch doesn't make contact. I kept thinking it was my fault. Oh, it's very scuffily modded. I see. I see. We're in the realm of scuffed. Yeah, because they're all rubber dome buttons on the PS, because PS expects to sell, you know, 70 billion gajillion of these things. So you're going to get the cheapest way to do things. I think the PlayStation controller is all flexible PCBs and stuff too. Wow, that's bright. Whoa. This is plasmoids. All right, so we got a little distracted today. Not talking the front membrane buttons. These are the triggers up front, or shoot. I thought the top ones were like domes, and then the bottom ones were also domes. They were all domes. The press buttons, I forget what those were. We've taken apart a PS controller, not an old one, but like a PS4 era controller, which was pretty interesting. The PS5 controllers have adaptive triggers with servo motors. Jeez, that's crazy. I would hope that games use it, but they always build these weird things into the controllers that are like, you know, super weird, and then nobody uses it. Noise fire. Noise fire. Noise, noise, noise. Well, I'll have to see which ones of these look good on the dog. We also have to see which ones of these I can run that don't use up a ton of power. Like this one's not going to use up a ton of power unless the dog's being loud, which he always is, but. Oh, use bad ones instead. Man, I don't know. It's been a while since we've taken apart a controller. We used to do a lot of gaming hardware here, and it was very fascinating to learn how these things function. But then I ran out of gaming stuff and money. Can't keep buying game controllers. See, there's all these parameters that I haven't even been playing with. Sensitivities and whatnot. I've just been clicking on these from the front. That's why a big piece of this is eventually going to be just sitting down with the hardware in a dark room and doing all of these different like settings in order to find out what looks good. And then I'll be able to put it on the dog and get a good video of it running. What's going on with this one? Yes. It's like flickering a little bit. It's called blurs, but turn the fade rate way down. Okay. More blur. Way less blur. There's a blur. I don't know what that is. What? This is a confusing one. Weird. Oh, I see. I need to turn up the color, and now they're starting to appear a little bit. You guys can't see shit. Okay, different one. Bouncing balls. Oh, that's cute. There's little little bouncing LEDs in there. There we go, yeah. I don't know how that would look on a dog. Even PC games can use the adaptive triggers? I was always thinking about looking into getting a PS5 controller. Whoa, too much gravity. Little gravity. More balls! They would probably look like they were traveling up and down if it wasn't for the fact that this whole thing is a U shape. How many animations do you have? I have no idea, man. This is just what was built into wLED. It's a pretty big list. It's not enormous. There are also other, there's a user mod plugin that you can plug into this thing that will give you more. Theater rainbow. What? That's just marching back and forth. It's not even a rainbow. Oh, there's only one singular color effect. Oh, God. Oh, I see. You can choose the background color. Yeah, that would be the way to make Willow more visible. Something like this would be perfect, and this is only taking 160 milliamps, so we would have about, you know, almost 2 hours of that. In case we run into somebody we know and the dog's playing and stuff, then she could just run this. One thing that I would like to have, I guess that's what this is doing. It'll eventually change colors. Oh, that's gap size. Whoa! There's the full RGB effect. So wLED does not know what the setup is with this. They're not as bright as you think they are. They look like discrete LEDs to me right now. The camera kind of futzes what everything looks like. Unfortunately, it makes it a little bit less representative of what is actually going on. Mark I eyeballs, the human eyeball, has a wonderfully dynamic range of brightnesses that it can see. The camera's not so much, and so in low lighting, I'm doing low light just so that I can emphasize the effects here. Otherwise, the lights completely wash this out, and it doesn't even look like it. I just want to make sure that you guys know that this is bright enough. It's not quite as bright as is represented on the camera. Now, does wLED know that this is 2 strips? No, it does not. It does not know that it goes down, over, and back. But I can program in multiple segments into this thing. So segment 0, segment 1, or I could go into the 2D settings and I could actually program a zigzag pattern that it would then take advantage of when you do the different parameters. Because in wLED, they show you the presets on their site. Where's their site? wLED project. Is this mobile? I think we're on mobile. On the effects, there's a big list of what all the effects look like. And so if I had parallel strips that I actually told it were configured in a particular way, things like blobs would actually look like a coherent thing. Bouncing balls shows it on 2. Pulses moving back and forth on a palette for BPM. It would actually look a little bit more like these little displays on the website. This one's kind of cool. I don't think I would ever... Colored bursts I would not be able to see properly. Colored twinkles is probably one of the better ones. One of these ones with a lot of dark space on it. DNA, if I had the 2 in parallel, then it would have maybe slightly of an effect. It probably wouldn't really, wouldn't really work. That one definitely wouldn't work. This one might look cool. Drift rose. Yeah, fire has to be oriented a little differently for it to actually work. But those are all on the website. This is what's called wLED, and I think a lot of the wLED stuff is really designed for installations that have like a power supply, because it'll use up a lot of current, and there's not a whole lot of options that I get to put the brakes on heavy current usage. There's over 100 base animations in the latest version of wLED, and you can save up to 250 customs. You can modify these as custom parameters. They have sliders where you can change the settings around, yeah. Yeah, a lot of these look like they were made for full LED displays, but you can't really see that on my one single strip, because it's treating this all like it's just the top row. What is SAMD 21? I don't know what that is. SAMD 21. There's also PC software that you can run that will allow you to coordinate all of this stuff more easily. They did all the work in creating, you know, sort of a neat looking display. So if you want to put LEDs all over your house outside, you know, they've got the waterproof strips. You can buy the waterproof wLED enclosures. Probably going to be spending a pretty penny, but it's DIYing it is actually really cool because you can control it on this level. You could have a whole light show without really doing all that much work. And then maybe later, if you learn a lot about wLED and the software that runs it, you could probably do some kind of a coordinated light show with it, and then all of your neighbors will get into accidents driving by. We do have one tree that we sort of wrap in Christmas lights, and I was like, hey, I could do something really cool with it, and my folks they didn't want to do that. They didn't really want to do that. I don't think SAMD can run it. 32-bit ARM chip. The ESP32 is cheap enough, man. This is $8. This is $8. $8. Just about the cost of an egg. So you just don't have an egg for breakfast, and then you can buy 2 of these with the cost of the egg. Price isn't my concern, it's weight. Are you gonna put this in a bow, like a bow and arrow bow? Like an arrow? You're gonna put it in an arrow, aren't you? And you're gonna shoot somebody with it. I didn't tell you to do that. I don't want you, don't do that. Just don't. Yeah, I don't know. It can run, yeah, ESP8266. We got to run this. ESP32 has some better low power features, and it has an external battery with the Seed Studio version. So we can turn this off and it's sucking down no current at all right now. That way, when I hang up the leash at the end of the day and I forget to plug it in for the night, it doesn't burst into flames in the middle of the night. It'll draw quiescent current until I turn it on again. Of course, now it's gone back to default. So we're gonna have to make a parameter for this. Well, I'm gonna have to make its own playlist that'll start up on boot. It's going in a Pinewood Derby car. That sounds super cool. That sounds super awesome. And you got to make sure that the kid doing the Pinewood Derby is the one that builds it. I'm gonna cough. I have been talking a lot today. I guess most of today was catch up with O'Bother after O'Bother's done a whole bunch of homework, so I had a lot to talk about. We do not know if we are able to turn off Wi-Fi on this thing. I'm not sure. It would be a modification of the low power user mod, and I would have to do it in C code. I would have to do it in C code, because then I can access the ESP32's low-level functions. This includes microcontrollers, LED, flex PCBs, and the batteries. Yeah, so this was very difficult to implement on the battery unless you want to just have it, kind of dumbly suck down power, which that's probably the better option for a Pinewood Derby car. Having the microphone in there was a lot of fun, so that when my dog barks, something will happen. With the Pinewood Derby car, you could maybe set it to be really sensitive. You'd have to test it a little bit so that when it's going down, well, actually, with the Pinewood Derby car, you could do the accelerometer. I don't think you can put if statements in the API, so you would have to go into the C code to program it, but you could do it so that it's listening to the accelerometer that faces the appropriate direction of forward movement, and then you could have it sense the forward and backwards movement, so it could turn on reverse lights or front. That'd be crazy. Or if you just wanted to run trippy patterns, I mean, that's fine too. But having like the accelerometer in the strip of LEDs doing this all would be pretty crazy. This looks like it's, so, I mean, yeah, we're talking about all this stuff and we're doing all this stuff. It's really cool. I'm probably not going to be able to get all the hardware together. I wanted to do that this stream. I wanted to build it. Well, I'm not even going to start. I'm going to work on this tomorrow on my own and see if I can build everything back into this little enclosure and how I'm going to do that. I think what's going to end up happening, and I'll just go over it with you guys, because we spent more time looking at cool LED patterns, which is, you know, par for the course. Wait, where's my C Jow? I've got the okay from the instructor. It's two CR2032s wired in series, so I can get 6 volts for the WS2812s. CR2032, that's a very common battery. I use those a lot. Use those on a lot of diabetic equipment and some projects. CR2032 datasheet. They're lithium ion, or lithium datasheet. You should probably use the larger LEDs, but if you get the 2.7 millimeter strip, running 90 of them means your batteries are going to be what? Continuous 0.19. What would be the amp hour rating? I'm looking for that. Pulse strain. 235 milliamp hours? Wait a minute. So if I were to cook that's, to 2 volts, rated at 15 kilo ohms, 235. So that's about the same battery life as what I'm getting, and I've got 92 LEDs running here. Yeah, if you're running 10 to 12, this is going to suck down more current than anything else. If you run it on an 8266, it'll probably last a little longer, and you'll probably want a power switch on the battery itself. So you could probably 10 to 12 LEDs. You could probably run for a couple hours on that. If you don't use the ESP32, I don't know what the quiescent current of the 8266 is when it tries to connect to Wi-Fi. I'm not sure what that is. The problem with the 8266 is I/O. Yeah, but I mean, 10 to 12 LEDs is like trivial for the thing to run. I mean, I'm like running out of I/O pins, but I've got a lot of stuff running on this right now. I've got a MOSFET that turns it off. I've got a button. I've got a microphone. That's it. I've got the LED strip, one LED strip. These, like, if you get a Xiao, you'll have plenty of outputs. The 8266 has a certain number as well. The Wemos D1 Mini has like, it's enough to get stuff done. Yeah, could you still run an accelerometer with all that? What was I doing? I was getting liquid. Oh, I got liquid. I've got it sitting right here. What am I doing? So like these wouldn't be too good for Willow because she wouldn't be that visible. I can't believe the CR2032 has that many milliamp hours though. That's like, that would be way better for the collar, although then I'd be burning through batteries. It'd be expensive. A D1 Mini would totally go overweight. Really? 2032 has lots of capacity. It's our Dreamcast VMU power. Yeah, I remember those. Didn't have 2 in the VMU? Oh, those are power hungry. You made us think they were garbage. Man, I had a clear green for my VMU. I didn't install many VMU games though. I should have. I didn't get a Dreamcast until pretty late into the run of Dreamcast. And we were absolutely pirating games like there was no tomorrow. Like I had a binder full of games by the time we were well underway. This is the seizure procedure. This is going to give you a seizure. Wow, this one's called popcorn. More intense, more speed, faster, more intense. Ah! Foam coming out of the side of my mouth. Jeez. The entire car can weigh no more than 5 ounces. Yeah, because it's a big gravity-driven track, huh? What did it do that? I don't know. I mean, like, even dropping the... So this is out of the realm of the Pinewood Derby car because you have your kid doing this, right? So your kid should be doing this work. Because if I were to do a Pinewood, like an adult Pinewood Derby, and I wanted to put LED effects into it, I think I would drop down to something like an AT Tiny 85, and maybe if I could get fast LED working in that, or just drop to the AT Tiny 85 and just have, you know, headlights and taillights and stuff that would react to something. Oh, you're doing the work because it's your school project. Oh. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. I that part dropped out of my brain, and I completely, totally lost that. You lost me. You lost me. Yeah. So, the Wi-Fi connectivity of this system, it's a little like having Wi-Fi on your Pinewood Derby car is kind of a cool thing in and of itself, but I don't know if I would be pushing for that. And instead, but the presets are so good on this if you want to run something that looks like trippy. But if you were just trying to implement like headlights and taillights per acceleration, because that would be really funny if they put the car on there and it's got brake lights on, and then when the thing drops, the headlights turn on and it goes down the slide, and when it hits the end, the brake lights come on, and like the reverse lights when it's going backwards. The car design is based on the DeLorean time machine, LEDs and all. Oh. Yeah, fast LED is what wLED is based on. It's like the underlying code that's running all the RGBs. Yeah, if you want to really save weight and run it on a very lightweight microcontroller, fast LED would probably be the way to go. But then you would be responsible for a lot more programming. It'd be a lot more low-level sort of implementation of stuff. And you wouldn't need Wi-Fi. I wouldn't want Wi-Fi on the Derby car. Yeah, and we haven't tried it yet, but it's possible that disabling Wi-Fi and wLED is going to be problematic. It's going to stop the operation of other systems that are required for the microcontroller to keep going. At some point, I would like to experiment with that. I'm going to have to get it so that I've got either Platform IO or just in the regular Arduino IDE, I've got this whole project running with all of my defaults set up so that I can just hit compile, and it'll just throw it onto the ESP32, and then that'll just work off the bat. That's where I'd like to be with this. But for something like an implementation of an LED effect on something that looks like a DeLorean, I would go with possibly, if you're using addressable LEDs, fast LED, it would be more programming heavy, but you could maybe dissect some of these modules and put those into your code directly to implement them. Because, yeah, there are some really cool looking ones, and if you choose the right color palette, they'll look like electrical things happening. What in the world? Something like messed up the palette that I'm using. So my palettes are all weird. The MCU I'm going to prototype is a Trinket MO, ASTA MD21, ASTM21. So it's some stupidly light board. Oh, it's like a huge Atmel. Huh. And the 8266 is heavier than this? But yeah, I would, fast LED on this, I probably could, I'm not sure. That's probably where I would go with, because then you don't have all those higher level functions that are fun to have in wLED for sure. And then if you can get a flexi PCB, you will also be stupidly light. So you won't have all that PCB weight. Text on collar, LED accelerometer, barking to LED stripe text, and all these things are on your to-do list. I don't think I'm going to be able to do text. How do you implement a font in a staggered LED setup? It won't really work. So text would be something for the far-flung future, which, you know, if this, I wish these were a little less dense because we do have current issues. We are, this one at least is sucking down a cool 300 milliamps. So I need stuff that doesn't use all the LEDs at once. And right now the background color, I don't have here, blank the background color. And then the foreground color. Yeah, see this one just sort of flickers away. Can't do a font with 2 rows. Yeah, it's a little. So this one is audio reactive, but I don't get any audio reactive controls on it. This is just like a clever way to fade away, I guess. It probably looks better on multiple rows. Willow is chipped, and she knows to stick around. She does not run away. That's... I need to like fade out faster. Also, the mic is very sensitive. I think maybe I need to turn down the mic. Hello. Although it will be, you know, it will be packed in this thing, so it'll be listening to everything really muffled. Right now, the hole for the microphone is actually facing upwards, so this gets like a direct. It's like a lav mic. It's super sensitive, so when it's in here, I don't think it'll be that super sensitive. Am I going to go for waterproofing? At least partially, enough that if the dog is in the rain, it'll look a little better, or it won't die almost immediately. You could do text if you do an array of APA 104. What is APA 104? I think Adafruit had, oh yeah, these things. These are those. These are APA 104s. Oh, that's even smaller actually. APA 104 1010. Yeah, this is the one you're talking about. I think that's what these are. Yeah, they are. Here, the microscope doesn't exactly have a ton of light to work with here. Hold on. And then the 2mm strip is right here. I'm going to work on hardware tomorrow off camera. I have a dental appointment tomorrow. Oh, this isn't the, wait, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. These are the APA 104s. So they're limited by the amount of trace stuff and the hookups to the power and data. But if I really wanted to, I mean, look, I wanted to make a Ruiner style mask. Yes, the ancient game Ruiner, now that the anvil is so thoroughly cold that it might as well be in deep space. Ruiner is a game where you go through in sweatpants and kill the entire cyber future, trying to kill boss. And he has this mask on, this motorcycle helmet that can run LED text. And it typically says kill boss, or at least for the whole beginning of the game. Very, very hardcore cyberpunk game. I wanted to make this as like a cosplay costume. The APA 100 would probably enable me to do something like that. Of course, I'd have to like stick a Raspberry Pi on my scalp in order to run that many LEDs. ESP32s or something? I don't know. But yeah, that would be possible using these LEDs, these dot stars. You would have to totally redesign how they went together though, and you need to do like a not a flexible, but like a 3-dimensional PCB. It would be a lot of project for me to go through as an individual that doesn't have access to like major industrial design stuff. It is possible to do, but it's also incredible. And then you'd have to solder 250 million of these things. Good Lord. It'd be cool as frig though. You'd have to wear a backpack with batteries in it. It's something that like I can barely do, but I could do it, maybe. Applied Science did a little bit on 3D printing the backing for a circuit board. He was able to barely deposit a little bit of gold onto the 3D print, and then if you get in there with a soldering iron quickly, you can solder stuff down to it. I don't know how that would work in terms of being able to make a fully fledged screen though, because he did a very basic, very rudimentary implementation of that. There are companies that can do that though. They can do a three-dimensional circuit board depositing onto some kind of a substrate. So if that some kind of substrate wasn't just basic 3D printing plastic, there's a potential I could make like, I don't know, a ceramic plate or something and just put together that mask. But then again, I'm also a big fat guy and I probably could not cosplay as a cyberpunk guy in a biker jacket wearing sweatpants. Still, to have a fully fledged, like fully realized Ruiner mask would be really cool. That's a little ambitious though. Why do I feel hyperglycemic? I'm not hyperglycemic, am I? Oh, 154. My what happens is the human body gets used to different glucose ranges. That's why everybody tells me about their uncle who's diabetic, who had their feet sawed. I have an aunt that's diabetic and her feet got sawed off. And it's like, great. What happens in that case, oh, that's what I was getting, a microcontroller. What happens in that case is that you go hyperglycemic and then you don't give a crap about, you don't give a flying crap about your own glucose levels. And so they remain hyperglycemic for an extended amount of time and your body just gets used to it. And so when your glucose level is normal, it can feel like you are deathly hypoglycemic, as in low. You've got APA 104 2020. The 1010s are even smaller. Whoa. That's pretty wild. Yeah, doing an array of 1010s, even 2020s on something like a Ruiner mask is something that I would love to do. I just don't have the resources to make, ceramic molds and then deposit traces on them. Hyperglycemia can have really scary consequences. Yes, it can. I don't know why everybody has to tell me about their distant family members that get limbs fucking sawn off. But as a diabetic, you will hear that a lot. But it's usually you get used to it and then you run constantly hyperglycemic. Happened to me as a teenager. I ran way too hyperglycemic as a teenager. I have clamped down on my diabetic care, so I am very much in control, and Bother will be totally fine. He's in control. He can do things pretty well nowadays. I don't know if this is going to benefit the antenna if I cram it in here like this, because it'll be kind of curled under the battery. I don't know if that's really going to be good. I mean, it certainly won't benefit, but it's going to take up a little bit of space, and maybe I should find a different antenna or just do a little wire antenna in here. I mean, it would have to be like this. Well, can it fit like that at all? No. And also curling it on itself is going to ruin the pattern on this thing. This thing is, you can see the darker lines on it are where the antenna's running. It's, I guess, a fairly more three-dimensional unidirectional antenna. It's not really an inverted planar F in any way. Can I just cut this? It probably would still work. Just smash it in here like this. I'm just trying stuff because we got to figure out this hardware. Yeah, and then the antenna connector's under this and it makes it not quite fit right. I mean, the Seed Studio Zhao is just a little tiny bit too wide for this enclosure. I don't think you can trim the edges. You don't want to do that because then you're shortening the length of the antenna, and antennas are resonant devices. They work with frequencies, and so their length determines the frequency of the antenna. The frequency that excites that antenna is dependent on length, and frequency is a factor of timing and length. You can determine, because the wavelength, it's a length of an excitation of a wave. The wavelength for light is in micrometers. For low power communications, it's in like centimeters. For Wi-Fi, it's, I believe, like millimeter lengths. So like a Wi-Fi antenna will be resonant at a certain length, and then it'll have resonant frequencies that are shorter and shorter that you can use. And you'll get a little less power on the resonant frequency, but it'll still work pretty well. That's why you have things like, cell phones, they work very high frequency, they have very tiny little antennas in them. You can have consumer electronics that have pretty long wavelengths. They're running off of a resonant frequency of that wavelength, and so it's able to output those waves and also get them back. So trimming the edges is not exactly a good idea here. I could just take a piece, it needs to have the connector on the end, but what I could do is take just a little length of this and just strip off the length of the antenna and just have that. Just buy the ESP32C3 Super Mini with onboard antenna. I don't want to run different hardware. We've already got this running just fine. I don't want to change pinouts or anything. This isn't a deal breaker. This is just working through some of this stuff. I could also try to find another device that is like a PCB antenna and desolder it from the one and put it on this one. But yeah, you can see that it's got these shapes on it that I don't want to get in the way. This is very moody lighting. ESP32C3 Super Mini. Let's just see. So it's roughly the same form factor, but it's got an onboard antenna. I mean, yeah, that's all great, but I've got the Seed Studio thing sitting right in front of me. Plus, does this thing have battery tabs on it? I don't know. Let's see if we can find. Does this thing have battery on it? No. One of the main reasons we're using this microcontroller is that we have battery capabilities on it. Xiao ESP32C6. Yes, okay. But this one has the battery management stuff on it. That's why we got it. Yeah, there are no battery pads on these other ones. That's why we got this one specifically, because we can just hook it up straight to the battery, and it has, unfortunately, it doesn't have an analog pin that's running for battery level, so we had to sacrifice one of the analog pins to monitor battery level. But other than that, we have the tabs on here, and we have the functionality built into this. So we're going to use this one. Aside from that, there is a little bit of a size issue with this. I mean, it fits in the battery door, and so the rubber piece that covers over this will do it well. But I need to somehow, let's get the light over here. We're in low light mode because the LEDs are fun to look at. I could get like an end mill and shave this part right here. It would make it a little bit more weak, but it could also give me a nice little shelf that this thing can sit on. So maybe we will do that. I'll put in an end mill, and I'll use the milling machine and just sort of eyeball just a little cutout from the sidewall here that's about the size of the circuit board. It's just the depth of the circuit board right here. And then this will have a little thing that I can sit up against. And hopefully the top piece one. I didn't want to involve the milling machine in this whole process. This is starting to get a little crazy. Starting to get a little convoluted and crazy, but it will make this fit together nicer, and I don't have to shave off my circuit board at all. And that's something I'll probably get to tomorrow. I'm going to have to do that tomorrow. So, all right, so we got about a 3-hour stream under our belt. We didn't do as much with hardware as I would have liked. It's going to be a lot of shaving and carving at the moment. It's going to be a lot of like I need to linish this PCB off a little bit. The Xiao ESP32C6 has smaller deep sleep current rating. Huh. Well, the ESP32C3 has like 50 microamps, which is like nothing compared to its compared to its competition. So either way, even though, the C3 might not be as super duper low quiescent current, it's still going to be enough that we can trust this thing to be like months without being powered up. What do you mean by battery charger? I mean, when I hook this thing up to USB, there's an LED right over there that signifies that it's charging the battery. These two wires go under the board and under this PCB, where there are two pads where I can solder battery terminals too. That's what these two pads right here are. So it automatically will do my, at least somewhat do the one cell battery management of being able to charge it. 44 microamps with a C6. Oh, 44 with C3, 15 with C6. That is significantly less. But I mean, like, okay, 44 microamps. (4.09 e to the negative ninth), huh? That is so little power. That is so little power. Yeah, I mean, primarily what we're creating is a battery-powered device here. So we've got to like fundamentally, you know, with these windows darker, this actually looks better. I should probably have like my desk lights turn off when I have this view. I need to plug wLED into the borders of these windows. I can have like an animation as that probably. I could key it out and then have a color gradient doing stuff. Anyway, our hardware is looking pretty good. Basically, it's going to be this circuit board sitting in there, and then a daughter board right next to it. One problem that I have with this is that this is going to be facing this way in the enclosure, which means that it's going to be butting up against this wall. And so I'm going to have a bunch of wires that come up and over. That'll be annoying. It's just going to be a thing that I do. It's going to be a bit of a cram to put everybody in here. And then I somehow need to put the power button where the top half has its cutout. And so with that PCB there, I might be able to swing the button like somewhere between the two PCBs maybe. That may be what I need to do, is have the PCB go like across so that this still feels like a tactical thud. Tactile thud, tactical. So that it's high speed, low drag. No, so it's a tactile thud. This is a pretty good tactile button. It's got a nice heavy click to it. These are pretty cheap. It takes up a little room. And so I need it to be precisely over this thing, which is putting it somewhat in the way. Like, okay, that sits there. And then this wants the button to be like just up here where it might be straddling the two. But I can cut up a board and put that in there. That'll be pretty cool. All right, anyway, all this stuff is going to happen tomorrow off camera because I can get this buttoned up pretty well. It's harder to do with you guys here. And then it ends up being a stream where all I'm doing is filing. I'm gonna spend multiple hours with this thing, and that's not really that exciting on camera. So I'll be back on Thursday. We can either work with this a little bit more if I find time. I can try to get all the stuff from GitHub into the Arduino IDE, and maybe we can play with some of the functions. I would love to be able to turn off Wi-Fi. And whether or not that throws a bunch of errors, maybe somehow, maybe we'll have try. I'll use a lot of try functions. And so when the functions fail, they'll move on to, the microcontroller will move on to other functions. That might be some major editing though. I don't know how deep this code is. It might be pretty deep. So what is the date on Thursday? That's the 23rd, 2/3. I didn't mean for this to be a kind of an early stream, but I mean, we at least, filing streams are my favorite. You guys have been very patient with me, with this old man that does this show. Don't tell me about your strokes. I don't. I know it's unfortunately we didn't get as much done as I would have liked today, but we did pack the LEDs in and get to actually see the implementation of this thing with real lighting going on. So we got to see it with real lighting going on, which makes for some really cool looking patterns. Turning off Wi-Fi would be very nice to be able to do, and then building into the stock system, holding down for 6 seconds and then having it turn Wi-Fi back on. That could be implemented, and I think I just need to do my own branch of code that does that. Oops. And then, of course, we'll have to make a bunch of presets. We got to make presets that will illuminate the dog, but not involve a ton of LEDs until the dog gets loud. The only sensor that I've got going in this thing is this guy right here, which is audio. A later implementation could probably, I think I have enough pins. I think I have 2 pins on this side of the chip where we could actually do an accelerometer, and then Willow's movement could also play in, but it's not as easy to bake in without getting down to the code level. So we got work to do before we get there. Police dog mode. Wee-oo, wee-oo. All right. Anywho, where's my Twitch monitor window? Here is my end card. I do not know if we will be working on this next week. Oh, it's not going to be on. If I switch, this is where the Discord is. My Blue Sky got hacked because I'm an idiot, and I probably should have put 2-factor authentication on it. It just got hacked. Sucks. So Blue Sky is dead. Let's Discord is where I spend most of my days. Maxing, relaxing, chilling, all cool. So I'm going to be back on Thursday. I will be on Discord until then. And we will work on something else. Maybe it'll be the dog collar again. I would like to get this thing done because it's not that, I don't want to make it my whole identity, you know? I want to get this thing done. So I'll catch you guys then. Until then, you guys can disperse, find out a place you want to be. Oh, DevNull, first time chat. Thanks for stream. DevNull's actually, that's a good name. That's like directly a line of programming. Let's see here, hold on. That's the guy. He made the dog collar. Yeah, exactly. That's the dog collar guy. RV there yet? I've never seen. What is going on with this page? Twitch did some redesigning again, didn't they? Okay, so none of the smaller folks that I know are doing anything. The usual people are around. I should raid Milton. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. That would be too disruptive. The man who made the blinding dog collar. It's not that, well, it is kind of bright. This is a pretty visible one in teal. All right, I will catch you guys Thursday. Thank you for joining me and all that. Where's the